Chapter 475. The sun and moon did not shine, and the world was dark. Darkness, pitch black, endless darkness. There was not a single trace of light in the world, and the incessantly rotating luminous stars seemed to have frozen. Only a wisp of dark mist drifted down from the sky, as if it wanted to drown the entire world. The immortals were horrified, and Grand Immortal's heart trembled. They did not know what was happening, but an extremely terrifying aura was sweeping towards them, causing their souls to tremble. Rumble. It was as if the sea of chaos was roaring, as if all living beings were being annihilated. A strand of chanting came from the three realms, as if there were unknown beings weeping sorrowfully in the distant and unknown chaos. The chanting was gentle, melodious, and soft, like the sound of the Tao weeping. The 33 heavens gradually became illusory, and a blood-red crescent moon quietly rose between the heavens and the earth. The blood-red crescent moon was bright red and dazzling. Suddenly, the blood-red crescent moon shone brightly, illuminating the past and present, and even the heavens, releasing an aura that did not belong to the three realms. Change. The sound of the Tao from the ages exploded in the three realms, causing pain in the eardrums of those who heard it. It was also at this moment that something extremely terrifying happened. Rumble. A strand of blood-red light that could destroy the heavens and the earth was so blinding that no one could open their eyes. The blood-red crescent moon actually descended from the heavens towards Yi Xian. Yi Xian was dressed in black, and 3,000 black strands of hair danced in the wind. His eyes were deathly still, and a sinister and cruel smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. It was extremely terrifying when one looked at him. Bang! 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 Like a sea of blood overturning the heavens, like the cries of all living beings, a mysterious light rose from Yi Xian's body, and an earth-shattering sound came from within his body. It was as if a shackle inside his body was shattering. Buzz! Strong winds howled incessantly, and the void exploded into ripples. The blood-red crescent moon finally descended, suddenly transforming into a blood-red star rune that was engraved on Yi Xian's forehead. The blood-colored star tattoo was in the shape of a crescent moon. It was bleak and blood-red, and it blossomed with a mysterious bloody light on Yi Xian's forehead. It was also at this moment that Yi Xian's appearance underwent an extremely terrifying transformation. The 3,000 strands of black hair seemed to be soaked in blood. From the roots to the ends of his hair, they turned the color of blood inch by inch. After 3 breaths of time, the light around Yi Xian dissipated. However, his appearance was completely different from before. Yi Xian was dressed in black. 3,000 strands of blood hung down behind his head, and a blood-colored star pattern flickered on his forehead. Wisps of dark fog revolved around his body, and an unimaginably terrifying power erupted. Yi Xian's lips opened and closed, emitting a mysterious sound of the Tao. It actually caused the sky of the three realms to become extremely dark. The mysterious fog that could bury the heavens and annihilate the earth howled endlessly through the 33 layers of the celestial court. Tap tap tap. The void fluctuated, and fear rose in his heart. The Jade Emperor's face was extremely pale, and he kept retreating. He looked at Yi Xian with great fear in his eyes. This. Could this be the legendary Chaos Divine technique? The Jade Emperor screamed in horror as his body trembled violently. It was as if he had thought of something extremely terrifying. No one knew what the Jade Emperor was talking about, and no one knew what the Chaos Divine technique was. All they knew was that Yi Xian's 3,000 strands of blood were flying in the wind, and an invincible power that could suppress the past and present was being released. The great demonic fist can suppress the heavens and earth. Who in the heavens can defeat it? Yi Xian roared violently. He took a step forward and punched out. Boundless darkness covered the sky, and the punch that could shatter the sky was like an ancient river that came crashing down towards the Jade Emperor. Bang! One punch, just one punch, and a terrifying hole was blasted in the Jade Emperor's heart. A large amount of blood spurted out of his mouth as he screamed. Even though he had reached the 7th firmament of Grand Luo, he could not withstand Yi Xian's overbearing punch at all. I am the Celestial Emperor. Who in the 3 realms is not convinced? Like a chaotic divine mountain that fell on the 3 realms, and like an endless river of time, Yi Xian strode towards the Jade Emperor. His overbearing voice spread throughout the 33 layers of the celestial court. The sky was exploding, and the void was being annihilated. Every step Yi Xian took was like an ancient star falling into the mortal world. His invincible power that could push the heavens and earth was undoubtedly displayed at this moment. One punch to move the heavens and earth, one to disturb the universe. The true profoundness of the great demonic fist was being released. Yi Xian punched out a second time, and directly suppressed the Jade Emperor in the void. The fist that could shatter the past and present shattered the Jade Emperor's head. Killing the heavens and earth, I am invincible. With the third punch, all things were destroyed, and the heavens and earth cried out. The Jade Emperor exploded into a bloody mist that filled the sky, and the world became deathly silent. Terrifying, extreme terror, unimaginable terror. The immortals were horrified, and the Grand Luo immortals were frightened. But whether it was the ordinary immortals or the so-called Daluo Jingxian, everyone's body and mind were trembling to the extreme. They looked at Yi Xian with extreme fear in their eyes. Above the sky, in the void, Yi Xian had his hands behind his back, and no matter how strong the wind blew, he did not move. The majesty of a celestial emperor slowly bloomed around him, giving people a feeling of worship. The Tribulation Transcender transformation was a heaven-defying technique. This was not just a saying, but an extremely terrifying power. Yi Xian, the indestructible primordial spirit, and the Grand Luo immortal body. It was not as simple as 1 + 1. Yi Xian was not weaker than the second watershed of the Grand Luo immortal realm. When he used the Tribulation Transcender transformation, he directly broke through the third watershed and stepped into the supreme realm of the ancestor. The Jade Emperor, on the other hand, had only severed his great Tao foundation and forcibly reached the 7th heavenly layer of the Grand Luo immortal realm. How could he be Yi Xian's opponent? Buzz! Suddenly, the void froze, and the bloody mist condensed. The void changed, and when the light dissipated, the Jade Emperor's body condensed. Although the heavenly dragon qi on his body became extremely illusory, he had indeed recovered from his injuries. What a terrifying Yi Xian! No wonder he wants to sit on the Celestial Emperor's throne. Unfortunately, it's impossible for him to sit on the Celestial Emperor's throne. The Jade Emperor has the support of the heavenly Tao, and he is also connected to the Celestial Court. As long as the Celestial Court is not destroyed, he will be immortal. Yi Xian can't kill him. Taiyi Jinren said with a trembling voice, revealing the truth. The other Grand Luo immortals also nodded, clearly agreeing with Taiyi Jinren's judgment. Yi Xian, you can't kill me. In the sky, the Jade Emperor roared crazily. However, he looked at Yi Xian with fear that he had never shown before. That was because he was truly afraid. He was afraid that he would die here. He was afraid that he would lose the Celestial Emperor's throne because he was no match for Yi Xian. Even if he severed his great Tao foundation and forcibly stepped into the 7th heavenly layer of the Grand Luo immortal realm, it was useless against Yi Xian. Die! Yi Xian was calm. 3,000 strands of blood flew wildly. When he punched, the endless sky was destroyed, and the Jade Emperor was once again blasted into a bloody mist. Chapter 476. However, in less than 10 breaths, the Jade Emperor materialized his body again. It was obvious that he really was immortal. No matter how many times Yi Xian killed him, he would always appear in front of Yi Xian alive. A worthy younger brother, forget it. The Jade Emperor gave his orders to the heavens. He can't be killed. Emperor Ziwei roared. She hoped that Yi Xian would stop wasting his time. Unfortunately, Emperor Ziwei's advice did not get any response from Yi Xian. He only squinted his eyes and looked at the Jade Emperor. A cruel and evil smile appeared on his face. Can't be killed. Yi Xian murmured coldly. A hint of mockery flashed across his eyes. Halberd, come. Rumble. The murderous world was filled with boundless darkness. When Yi Xian's voice rang out, his glabella shone. The heaven-destroying halberd appeared and he held it in his hand. The darkness was boundless. The murderous aura filled the sky. It messed up the past and the present. It shattered the heavens. The heaven-destroying halberd was known as the #1 killing weapon of all time. Its origins were mysterious. It also had unimaginable power. Buzz. Yi Xian pointed the halberd at the Jade Emperor. A ray of dark light flashed across the sky. It shattered the spacetime. A murderous aura that did not belong to the three realms grew on the tip of the halberd. Blessed by the heavenly way, immortal and indestructible. Yi Xian's words were cruel and ferocious. He looked at the Jade Emperor as if he was looking at a dead man. I wonder if you can survive under the heaven-destroying halberd? Yi Xian asked with a cold smile, causing the Jade Emperor's face to turn deathly pale. His gaze towards Yi Xian was filled with extreme fear, because a deathly sense of terror arose in his heart. The Jade Emperor had never felt death before. However, when the heaven-destroying halberd appeared, the Jade Emperor realized in horror that his aura, which was blessed by the heavenly way, was weakening. It was as if the heavenly way's will was about to cut off from him. Impossible, how is this possible? The Jade Emperor's mind was in a mess. His mind was trembling, and he kept retreating. Clearly, he could feel death approaching. Yi Xian. Yi Xian, you want to be the Celestial Emperor. I can give it to you, the Jade Emperor said with a trembling voice. When he finished speaking, the immortals and great immortals were dumbfounded. They could not believe their ears. What is the Jade Emperor saying? Give the throne to Yi Xian. Has the Jade Emperor gone mad? The immortals and Daluo immortals were shocked into silence. All kinds of thoughts arose in their minds. If they had not heard the Jade Emperor's words with their own ears, they would not have believed that the Jade Emperor would say such cowardly words. The Jade Emperor was weak and incompetent. This had always been circulating in the three realms and did not surprise the immortals and zenith heavens. However, the position of Celestial Emperor was personally conferred by Tao ancestor Hongjun. Wasn't it the biggest joke that the Jade Emperor wanted to give up the throne? Actually, no one knew why the Jade Emperor said such words. The reason was very simple. The Jade Emperor felt the pressure of death. The Jade Emperor was very sure that if he was killed by the heaven-destroying halberd, he would not be able to come back to life. This feeling was very strong, and the Jade Emperor did not doubt it. Although giving the position of Heavenly Emperor to Yi Xian was an extreme humiliation to him, compared to his own life, the position of Heavenly Emperor wasn't that important. The Jade Emperor's thoughts were very simple. As long as he could stay alive, so what if he gave the throne to Yi Xian? As long as he could return to the Purple Cloud Palace, he would take revenge for today's blood feud sooner or later. The Jade Emperor forced a smile. His posture was very low, and his straight back was slightly bent. It was as if he was praying to Yi Xian. Without dignity, he wouldn't be able to kill Yi Xian. The Jade Emperor didn't care about anything else. Right now, he only cared about his own life. Even if he had to kneel before Yi Xian, he wouldn't hesitate in the slightest. You know when to yield and when to stand tall. You are quite a formidable person. Yi Xian walked in the sky. The heaven-destroying halberd buzzed. Its murderous aura was slightly released. Unfortunately, if you don't die, how can I sit on the throne steadily? Yi Xian looked down at the Jade Emperor. His murderous words echoed in the Jade Emperor's ears. Bang! Suddenly, something happened that stunned Yi Xian. The Jade Emperor's knees went soft and he knelt before Yi Xian. He even begged Yi Xian, Yi Tiandi, since I have already admitted defeat, please spare my life. I, Hao Tian, swear to you that I will never be your enemy again. Silence. Silence. Dead silence. When the Jade Emperor knelt, not to mention Yi Xian, even the Immortals and the various great Luo Immortals looked at each other in a daze. Everyone's thoughts froze, and they couldn't believe their eyes. The world was silent. Nothing could be heard. When the Jade Emperor knelt before Yi Xian's eyes were a little dazed. He never thought that he could force the Jade Emperor to this extent. In Yi Xian's mind, the Jade Emperor was a formidable person. Even if he was about to die, he would still fight with his life. Yi Xian never thought that the Jade Emperor would kneel before him and beg for his life. Go to hell. Suddenly, just as Yi Xian was in a daze, the Jade Emperor abruptly raised his head. His eyes turned crimson red, and his sinister and cruel killing intent leaped out. Rumble. The investiture of the gods broke through the barrier of space and appeared above Yi Xian's head. The golden light of the investiture of the gods shone down and covered Yi Xian. A painful groan came from Yi Xian's mouth. Yi Xian, you brat. So what if you have the chaos divine technique? So what if you force me to kneel before you? The investiture of the gods specializes in destroying the essence soul. Even the third watershed of the Zenith Heaven realm is no exception. You are the one who will die today, not me. I will destroy your soul and let you die without a burial place. The Jade Emperor suddenly stood up. His face was hideous and twisted as if he had gone mad. He formed an immortal seal with both hands. The investiture of the gods completely drowned Yi Xian. Die, die, die. The Jade Emperor laughed sinisterly. He seemed to have gone mad. His crimson eyes were like an evil spirit that had crawled out of hell. It was terrifying and horrifying. A worthy younger brother. Emperor. Emperor Ziwei roared. Zhao Gongming and the other immortals of the Jia sect were furious. I am the master of the three realms. Yi Xian, that little bastard, must die. The Jade Emperor laughed maniacally. He was as proud as a victor. The immortal light around him was extremely chaotic, proving how excited he was. Ha! Suddenly, a chuckle was heard. The Jade Emperor's maniacal laughter came to an abrupt halt. He looked at Yi Xian with extreme fear. What happened next made his soul leave his body. Above the sky, in the void. The god's sealing golden light dissipated and a scroll of the investiture of the gods was held in Yi Xian's hand. The center of Yi Xian's brows was slowly glowing, and the undying primordial spirit's hands were forming hand seals as it buzzed and vibrated. Rays of primordial spirit golden light covered Yi Xian within. Indestructible essence soul. As the name suggested, it was all about the word indestructible. This indestructible essence soul was different from the essence souls of ordinary immortals. The essence souls of immortals in the three realms were extremely weak. If the investiture of the gods were to ambush it, it would definitely end up with its soul destroyed. Chapter 477. Unfortunately, Yi Xian walked the path of becoming a saint through strength. His primordial spirit was invulnerable to all methods. Not to mention a mere investiture of the gods, even if a quasi-sage wanted to kill his primordial spirit, it would take him 49 days to completely kill Yi Xian. No. Impossible. Why? Why is this happening? The Jade Emperor screamed in horror. He could not believe what he was seeing. The investiture of the gods was his last trump card. It was also his only treasure that could kill Yi Xian. However, the scene in front of him told him that his so-called trump card could not harm Yi Xian at all. A worthy younger brother. Emperor. Emperor Ziwei and Zhao Gongming laughed when they saw that Yi Xian was unharmed. The group of immortals from the Jia sect danced in joy. They did not look like immortals at all. It was no wonder that they looked like this. After the investiture of the gods, the Jia sect was extremely weak. After countless years, they were even trampled under the feet of the Chan sect. At this moment, Yi Xian rose against the heavens. Even the Jade Emperor had to submit to him. As long as Yi Xian could kill the Jade Emperor, it would prove that the Jia sect was about to gain a foothold in the celestial court. In the sky, Yi Xian walked forward slowly. The so-called ferocious and vicious look had long disappeared. At this moment, Yi Xian was extremely calm. It was as if even the collapse of the world could not affect him at all. Time flies. The grudge between you and me has lasted for 6,000 years. Today, it will finally come to an end. Yi Xian looked at the Jade Emperor emotionlessly. He slowly raised the heaven-destroying halberd. A boundless dark light bloomed on the tip of the halberd. The destructive aura locked onto the Jade Emperor. No. No. I don't want to die. The Jade Emperor roared in fear. The Daluo immortal light exploded. He actually tore the space apart and shot towards the 33 outer heavens. There are no living creatures beneath the heaven-destroying halberd. Who would have known this since ancient times? Yi Xian's voice was ancient and hoarse, echoing in the 33rd floor of the celestial court. An intoxicated smile appeared on his face. He didn't do anything, but when he swung the number one killing weapon of all time in his hand, an extremely terrifying scene appeared. Clang! The darkness was boundless. This cold light was like a ray of light in the primordial chaos. It tore through the ages and shattered the primordial chaos. All living beings would be annihilated by this cold light. It didn't shake the heavens and split the earth, nor did it collapse in all directions. There wasn't any terrifying power either. The heaven-destroying halberd disappeared from Yi Xian's hand. The cold light broke through the barrier of time and space and suddenly pierced through the Jade Emperor's body. In the endless darkness, the Jade Emperor was nailed to death by the heaven-destroying halberd's unimaginable power. Blood, fresh blood, bright golden blood. The Jade Emperor's eyes lost focus. The Nine Dragons' imperial robe was stained with blood. Blood kept spilling out of his mouth. His eyes were filled with despair and unwillingness. Drip, 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 drip. Strands of golden blood flowed out of the Jade Emperor's chest and dyed the southern heavenly gates plaque red. However, when this terrifying scene appeared in front of the immortals, the world became deathly silent. Thump, thump, thump. Like the beating of a war drum or the flowing river of the nine heavens, Yi Xian strolled through the sky until he stood in front of the southern heavenly gate. He calmly watched the Jade Emperor being nailed to the southern heavenly gate's plaque. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. The grudge of 6,000 years ends today. You can rest in peace now. Yi Xian calmly said. When he reached out, the heaven-destroying halberd slowly withdrew from the Jade Emperor's chest. A smear of blood sprayed onto Yi Xian's face. Yi Xian took a deep breath. He seemed to be completely intoxicated by this comfortable feeling. Bang! The Jade Emperor's corpse fell to the ground. The muffled sound woke the immortals up. Jade Emperor is dead. He died just like that. East Emperor killed the Jade Emperor. No. Yi Tiandi killed the Jade Emperor. The immortals murmured. Even the Daluo Jingxian trembled and murmured. They really didn't think and didn't dare to think that the Jade Emperor, the Lord of the Three Realms, would actually die at the hands of Yi Xian. The world is changing. The world of the Three Realms is changing. When this thought arose in the hearts of the immortals, their eyes were filled with bitterness. They knew that the Jade Emperor's death meant that Yi Xian would become the new heavenly emperor. Yi Xian wasn't the Jade Emperor. Since he wanted to be the Lord of the Three Realms, he wouldn't be as weak as the Jade Emperor. If anyone didn't submit to him, Yi Xian would brutally suppress them. Everyone knew that the Three Realms was about to fall into chaos. Because Yi Xian wasn't the Jade Emperor, the orthodoxies wouldn't submit to him. Yi Xian wouldn't be as patient as the Jade Emperor. an unimaginable chaos was about to happen. A worthy younger brother, quickly kill the Jade Emperor's primordial spirit. Otherwise, if his primordial spirit escapes, I'm afraid there will be endless trouble in the future. Suddenly, Emperor Ziwei warned. This woke the immortals up. They realized that the Jade Emperor was indeed dead. But where was his primordial spirit? Buzz! A spot of primordial spirit golden light suddenly broke through the barrier of time and space and disappeared instantly. Clearly, this was the Jade Emperor's primordial spirit. This made Emperor Ziwei anxious. She wanted to stop it. Unfortunately, the Jade Emperor had once been Dao ancestor Hongjuan's Dao child. Though he'd perished here today, his nascent spirit arts were far more powerful than other immortals, making it impossible for Empress Myrtle Star to stop him. What are you still looking at? Are you waiting for me to attack? Suddenly, Yi Xian spoke calmly and looked directly at Venus Taibai. This made Venus Taibai smile bitterly. Under the horrified gazes of the immortals, a heavenly book appeared in Venus Taibai's hand. The golden light whizzed out and captured the Jade Emperor's primordial spirit. Venus Taibai, how dare you steal the heavenly book? The Jade Emperor's primordial spirit roared. He never thought that he would put the last bit of his primordial spirit in the heavenly book because he was afraid that one day, Yi Xian would kill the celestial court. If he really died in Yi Xian's hands, he could still be reborn as long as the last bit of his primordial spirit in the heavenly book was not destroyed. Unfortunately, the Jade Emperor did not expect that Venus Taibai, whom he trusted the most, would betray him at this critical moment. Not only did he steal the heavenly book, but he also captured his broken primordial spirit. This was a situation where there was no chance of survival. Taibai jinxing, destroy his primordial spirit for this emperor. Suddenly, Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and looked at Venus Taibai gloomily. This made Venus Taibai's body tremble. It was obvious that he was very hesitant. However, Venus Taibai knew very well that Yi Xian wanted him to destroy the Jade Emperor's primordial spirit to cut off all his escape routes. He would also be cursed by the upper three realms because he was the Slayer Master's betrayal. From then on, he could only follow Yi Xian loyally. Otherwise, he would be hated by everyone in the three realms. Chapter 478. Jade Emperor, you can only blame yourself for being so stupid as to make an enemy out of Yi Tiandi. Although the old minister doesn't want to kill you, for the sake of the old minister's life, you can die now. Venus Taibai roared ferociously as he fell into madness. While the Jade Emperor was cursing him viciously, he controlled the heavenly book and instantly destroyed the Jade Emperor's primordial spirit. It was over. Everything was over. When Venus Taibai destroyed the Jade Emperor's primordial spirit with his own hands, the Jade Emperor's eyes were bitter and lifeless. He fell to the ground like a pile of mud, as if he had lost his soul. Not bad. You did well. Yi Xian smiled and patted Venus Taibai's shoulder affectionately. Then, he didn't look at him again. From the beginning to the end, Yi Xian's plan was flawless. He even nipped all the hidden dangers in the bud. Yi Xian was very confident that he could kill the Jade Emperor. However, he also understood that the Jade Emperor was the master of the three realms after all. He was once the Daoist child of the Daoist ancestor. He definitely had his own methods to protect himself. Moreover, Yi Xian knew the Jade Emperor very well. The Jade Emperor was a ruthless person. He was the best choice regardless of whether he was patient or shrewd. He would never put all of his eggs in one basket. Immortals valued the primordial spirit the most. As long as the primordial spirit wasn't destroyed, there would be a chance to start over again. This was an iron law that had never changed. Even the Jade Emperor was no exception. As expected, the Jade Emperor left himself a way out. He separated a trace of his primordial spirit and placed it in the heavenly book. Even if his primordial spirit was destroyed, as long as the trace of his primordial spirit in the heavenly book was still there, he would have a chance to revive. Therefore, when Yi Xian returned to the celestial court, he went straight to Venus Taibai. As Venus Taibai was the Jade Emperor's trusted aide, he was the only one who knew many of the Jade Emperor's secrets. As expected, Yi Xian made the right bet. Venus Taibai became Yi Xian's most crucial chess piece. When he stole the heavenly book, he even captured the Jade Emperor's escaping primordial spirit under the guidance of his primordial spirit. This also caused the Jade Emperor to lose his last trump card. In the end, his soul dissipated and he died. The Jade Emperor died with his eyes wide open. This was because his most trusted aide had dealt him a fatal blow, causing him to completely vanish from the three realms. At this moment, the Immortals and Daluo were silent. No one dared to reprimand Yi Xian for his actions because they had personally witnessed the tragic deaths of the Jade Emperor and Queen Mother. They knew that if they stood out now, they would be courting death. Suppressing the heaven and earth, sweeping through the past and present, this was the feeling that Yi Xian brought to the Immortals and Zenith heavens. In front of the southern heavenly gate, Yi Xian had his hands behind his back. 3,000 strands of blood fluttered in the wind. An unimaginable majesty of a celestial emperor bloomed around him. His momentum had been established, and no one dared to reprimand him. The Feast of Peaches is held once every 100,000 years. Although some very bad things have happened today, I do not wish for the Feast of the Three Realms to end so hastily. Would you all be willing to continue this unfinished Feast of Peaches with me? Yi Xian said calmly. When he opened and closed his eyes, it was as if the stars in the heavens were rotating in his eyes. His suppressive aura swept towards the Immortals and Zenith heavens from all directions. Ah, ha, ha. Your Majesty has invited us. How would we dare to disobey? Perfected Tai forced a laugh, but a hint of fear flashed across his eyes. Your Majesty, please. Chijingzi forced a laugh. How would he dare to complain? The 12 ancient golden immortals, Daoist Ci Hang and perfected Yu Ding had both died in the hands of Yi Xian. Guang Qingzi had just been killed by Yi Xian. This had already brought great fear to the 12 ancient golden immortals. Now, the remaining few golden immortals deeply understood that their lineage of Chan had already offended Yi Xian. If they dared to show any dissatisfaction at this moment, they were afraid that the 12 ancient golden immortals would fall in the hands of Yi Xian today. Not only the 12 ancient golden immortals, the 10 kings of hell, the Western Maitreya Buddha, and the others all lowered their eyes and did not make any sound. Although they would not flatter Yi Xian, they would not curry favor with Yi Xian either. This was because they represented various factions. However, now that Yi Xian's power had been established, they did not want to have a conflict with Yi Xian, lest they be killed mercilessly by Yi Xian. This was because everyone knew that Yi Xian was not a patient person like the Jade Emperor. In the eyes of such a ferocious person, he had never taken the various great orthodoxies seriously. If he had even a little bit of fear back then, how would he have killed the people of Spirited Mountain and Chan sect? Emotionless, sinister, and ruthless. If he wanted to kill someone, he would do so without the slightest scruple. This was the Yi Xian in the eyes of the immortals and the various great Luo immortals. This caused them to be silent. It seems like none of you have any objections. Then, let's continue this Feast of Peaches that only happens once every 100,000 years. Yi Xian smiled and strolled towards the jade pool. However, the corner of his mouth quietly curved into a cruel smile. Obviously, the Feast of Peaches would not be so simple. The jade pool spanning 100,000 miles. The female immortal officials were busy with various immortal arts. The shattered jade pool was restored to its original state in just a few dozen breaths. Thousands of white jade tables appeared. Many of the female immortal officials were pale, but they continued to serve immortal fruits and spirit wine. Then, they stood on both sides, trembling silently. The so-called peaches of immortality were already eaten by the immortals and zenith heavens when they were presented. This so-called feast of peaches of immortality seemed to be missing something. However, the immortals and zenith heavens did not have the mind to care about the peaches of immortality. At this moment, all of them were sitting upright and still. Clearly, Yi Xian was giving them great pressure. At the Celestial Emperor's throne at the center of the Jade Pool, Yi Xian sat on the Celestial Emperor's throne. He looked around at the immortals and zenith heavens present, and the Jade Pool, which was already dead silent, became even more oppressive. This emperor would like to propose a toast to all of you. Suddenly, Yi Xian slowly raised his cup amidst the oppressive atmosphere and toasted the immortals from afar. He was the first to finish the immortal wine in his cup. The immortals forced a smile and drank the wine in their cups. Yi Xian casually tossed the cup onto the Celestial Emperor's table and exhaled a turbid breath. He then looked around at the immortals present and said, as the saying goes, the Celestial Emperor takes turns to sit on the throne. Today, it is my turn. This emperor intends to do his best for the stability of the three realms. Today, I will become the lord of the three realms. Do any of you have any opinions? As Yi Xian spoke, the immortals of the Jade Pool fell silent. Although they already knew that Yi Xian was going to bring this up, none of them dared to refute him. However, none of them stood out to agree either. The Celestial Emperor's position was no small matter. It was not something that could be the lord of the three realms just because one's cultivation was higher. Firstly, the Celestial Emperor's position must be acknowledged by the saints. Otherwise, the title would not be legitimate. Why would the various orthodoxies acknowledge Yi Xian as Celestial Emperor? Secondly, although the immortals appeared to be subservient, the most fundamental reason was that they were afraid of Yi Xian. They were deeply afraid that they would die tragically in Yi Xian's hands if they stood out to refute him. Thirdly, there was no one from the third watershed of the Golden Immortal Realm present, so Yi Xian was naturally allowed to speak as he pleased. Once they returned to their respective orthodoxies, there would naturally be someone from the third watershed of the Golden Immortal Realm to deal with Yi Xian. Fourthly, and also the most important matter, the Jade Emperor and Queen Mother were personally conferred by Tao ancestor Hongjun. Now that they were killed by Yi Xian, the saints would definitely intervene. Yi Xian would not be free for more than a few days. Perhaps it would not be long before Yi Xian's body and Tao dissipated. Patience. That was right. The immortals were enduring. They knew that none of them could oppose Yi Xian at this moment, but they would never express their approval either. They would naturally inform their orthodoxies of this shocking change once they left the celestial court. Chapter 479. On the throne of the Celestial Emperor, Yi Xian was smiling, but his smile made the immortals extremely uneasy. It was because Yi Xian's smile was too sinister, as if he had the intention to kill all the immortals. Amitabha. The Maitreya Buddha put his palms together and chanted a Buddhist name in a low voice. He said, Emperor, I have a piece of advice. Although the Jade Emperor and Queen Mother were killed by you, the Lord of the Three Realms is no small matter. You need the approval of all living beings in the Three Realms before you can ascend to the position of Celestial Emperor. Otherwise, even if we acknowledge your identity as Celestial Emperor, it will not be legitimate. As the Maitreya Buddha's words fell, Perfected Tai hurriedly stood up and said, Maitreya Buddha is right. If the Emperor wants to rule the Three Realms, it must be legitimate. It also needs the approval of the saints. The Western Buddha and the Golden Immortal of the Chan sect. When these two people spoke together, the immortals of the Jade Lake all agreed. Obviously, none of the immortals present would go against Yi Xian. They were only tactfully rejecting Yi Xian's suggestion. Oh. Yi Xian's smile gradually disappeared. He placed his arms on the table and leaned forward slightly. He stared at the two of them and said, Does that mean that you don't agree with me becoming the Lord of the Three Realms? No. I wouldn't dare. Yi Xian turned hostile immediately. This also made perfected Tai's expression change. He hurriedly responded with a trembling voice. Fine beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. This also proved how much he feared Yi Xian in his heart. Humph. Suddenly, before Yi Xian could speak, a cold snort was heard. Zhao Gongming walked out of the crowd, followed by hundreds of immortals from the Jie sect. The entire Jie sect is willing to worship the emperor as the new celestial emperor. If anyone has any objections, the entire Jie sect will not let them go. Zhao Gongming led the immortals of the Jie school and bowed to Yi Xian. Although he seemed to be speaking to Yi Xian, his real purpose was to tell the immortals present that the entire Jie school was already on Yi Xian's side. That's right. The East Emperor is one of the 4 great emperors. Since the Jade Emperor is immoral and useless, the one most qualified to become the Celestial Emperor is the East Emperor. Emperor Ziwei slowly walked out and looked at the immortals present. His great Luo immortal aura rippled slightly. Clearly, he and Yi Xian were brothers. Since Yi Xian wanted to become the Celestial Emperor, he, Emperor Ziwei, would definitely support him. As soon as Empress Myrtle Star finished speaking, the expressions of the immortals present changed slightly. They hadn't expected Empress Myrtle Star to choose a side at a time like this. After all, Empress Myrtle Star's status was extremely high, and her connections were extraordinary. First of all, Emperor Ziwei was one of the 4 great emperors of the Celestial Court. He was in existence on the same level as the Jade Emperor. Before the new Celestial Emperor was confirmed, he had a great right to speak. The most important problem was that Emperor Ziwei had a wide range of friends. Looking at the 3 realms, he had countless close friends. Moreover, the ancestor of the Earth Immortals, Great Immortal Zhen Yuan, was his teacher. Speaking of Great Immortal Zhen Yuan, this quasi-Saint Tong Tian great figure was not as simple as one imagined. First of all, Great Immortal Zhen Yuan presided over the Ginseng Fruit Festival that was held once every 300,000 years. Countless Daluo Jingxian in the 3 realms could be said to have racked their brains to be able to participate in the Ginseng Fruit Festival. Moreover, as the ancestor of the Earth Immortals, Great Immortal Zhen Yuan would preach the Tao once every 3,000 years. In the 3 realms, regardless of immortals, demons, or devils, they could all go to the 5 manor to listen to the Tao. Countless ancient great divine powers had received the favor of Great Immortal Zhen Yuan. As the saying goes, love the house and its crow. Emperor Ziwei was Great Immortal Zhen Yuan's disciple. No matter where Emperor Ziwei went, immortals, demons, and devils would have to give face to Emperor Ziwei. Even Duo Bao Rulai of the West did not dare to slight him in the slightest. Now that Emperor Ziwei strongly supported Yi Xian, this also represented the will of Great Immortal Zhen Yuan. How could this not shock the immortals to the extreme? Ba. The Maitreya Buddha frowned slightly and said, Emperor Ziwei, although you are one of the 4 great emperors of the Celestial Court, the position of Celestial Emperor is no small matter. If there is no decree of the saint to bestow the title, I'm afraid the East Pole Emperor will not be able to rule the 3 realms, right? The Maitreya Buddha was very reserved. He was also hinting to Emperor Ziwei that even if he was the disciple of Great Immortal Zhen Yuan, the position of Celestial Emperor was not something he could interfere with. What a joke! Suddenly, before Emperor Ziwei could speak, the silent goddess of golden spirit walked out of the crowd. She first bowed to Yi Xian and then looked at the Maitreya Buddha. Although Jie school has failed in the Great God Conferment Tribulation, it does not mean that Jie school does not have a place in the 3 realms. Go back and tell my senior brother Duo Bao that if he wants to object to the East Pole Emperor becoming the master of the 3 realms, don't blame me for gathering my junior brothers and sisters to go to his spiritual mountain to seek justice from him. As soon as the goddess of golden spirit finished speaking, the Maitreya Buddha's expression changed slightly. He pressed his palms together and kept chanting the Buddhist proclamation. He did not say anything else. Perhaps some people would question why the goddess of golden spirit called Duo Bao Rulai senior brother. Actually, the reason was very simple. During the Great God Conferment Tribulation, Duobao Rulai was not the Western Buddha. At that time, Duobao Rulai was a disciple of Jie school and the eldest disciple of Tongtian. His Taoist name was Taoist Duobao. Speaking of Taoist Duobao, not only was he talented, but he was also extremely liked by Tongtian. Tongtian doted on him to the extreme and gave him countless numinous treasures. Unfortunately, after the Great God Conferment Tribulation, Taoist Duobao entered Western Buddhism and became the master of the Western spiritual mountain. This matter had always been the biggest stain on Jie school because Jie school was different from Chan school. In Chan school, people like Taoist Ci Hang, Manjushri, and Samantabhadra entered Western Buddhism. That was a choice between saints. Taoist Duobao could be said to have betrayed his master and joined Western Buddhism. It hurt Tongtian's heart and made the other disciples of Jie school extremely resentful of Taoist Duobao. Perhaps Taoist Duobao also felt guilty. He turned a blind eye to everything related to Jie school. Even if there were disciples of Jie school killing in the Aparagodania continent, the Buddha and Bodhisattva of Mount Numinous would try their best not to kill them. This was also for the sake of Duobao Rulai. Goddess Jinling was Tongtian's second eldest disciple, and Taoist Duobao was her eldest senior brother. Today, she stood up to support Yi Xian, which also proved Daluo Jinxian's attitude. Maitreya Buddha was silent. He knew that things had become difficult. He could only return to Mount Numinous to report this matter to Buddha. As for Duobao Rulai's attitude next, it had nothing to do with him. When Maitreya Buddha stopped speaking, the golden immortal of Chan school's expression changed slightly. Because Chan school and Jie school had always been at odds. If Yi Xian really ascended to the position of celestial emperor, wouldn't Chan school be suppressed? Emperor, the master of the three realms, is no small matter. We can only report to Yuanshi Tianzuan. If the saint agrees to let you become the new celestial emperor, Chan school will definitely regard you as the master of the three realms. Immortal Tai bowed. His posture was neither arrogant nor humble. Obviously, in the face of such a big matter, he could only argue with reason. If he was afraid of Yi Xian's ruthless means and agreed to let Yi Xian become the emperor, he was afraid that he would not be able to raise his head in front of all the immortals of Chan school. Chapter 480. The Saint's Decree. Suddenly, a loud voice came from all directions. Outside the 33rd heaven, a golden light of Daluo whizzed over. When the light dissipated, Shen Gongbao quietly appeared beside Yi Xian. A golden decree was held in Shen Gongbao's hand, and a faint aura of a sage was being emitted. Although it was only a trace of it, it made the immortals of the Jade Lake change their expressions greatly, and their minds trembled to the extreme at this moment. At the beginning of the world, all things were born. The three realms cannot be without a ruler for a day. Today, Yi Xian has given his life to the heavens, and he can be conferred the title of the everlasting Holy Celestial Emperor. Shen Gongbao was reading the saint's decree with a cold smile. When his voice fell, an extremely shocking thing happened. Rumble. The three realms shook, and golden light shot through the sky. The saint's decree turned into millions of golden light rays that spread out in all directions, and the booming sound of the great way resounded everywhere in the three realms. Whether it was the netherworld, the four great continents of the earth immortal realm, or the spirit mountain of the west, as long as it was a living creature, they all heard the sound of the conferment at this moment. The saint's decree made all living creatures submit. This was not just a saying, but a representation of the saint's will. At this moment, the three realms were in turmoil. Countless great divines were staring at the celestial court in horror, because this was a decree conferred by the Tongtian, and it could not be faked at all. In the netherworld, the ghosts of the 18 layers of hell were wailing, and the cries of ghosts and gods were enough to make one's hair stand on end. In the deepest part of the 18 levels of hell, endless ghost chi was steaming, and the roars of countless fierce demons and ghosts could be heard. A 9th-grade golden lotus and an 80-foot spirit beast were floating in the void of hell. There was a faint Buddha's light on the ninth-grade golden lotus, and an illusory figure was sitting cross-legged on the golden lotus. The world is changing, and the three realms are in turmoil. The greatest dark turmoil is coming, and I don't know how many souls will return to the netherworld. Amitabha. He was Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, an extremely terrifying almighty of Buddhism. At the beginning of the world, he had made a great promise. Although he was a bodhisattva, he was respected by all living beings. Bodhisattva, Tong Tian has issued a decree to appoint Yi Xian as the celestial emperor of the three realms. I'm afraid that even Yama and the underworld will not be spared. Please make preparations, Bodhisattva. The 18-meter-long spirit beast was called Truth Listener. It was capable of knowing everything and everything in the world. It was capable of prying into the depths of the underworld, capable of detecting and understanding everything. It was a unique existence in the three dimensions. Hearken, you can know about the past and the future. Can you know about Yi Tiandi's past? Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva asked benevolently. The mysteries of heaven are not revealed, and the past is uncertain. This celestial emperor Yi is too strange. I can't divine anything, the Harkin said bitterly. Amitabha. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva chanted softly, I hope this Yi Tiandi can remember the heavens, so that there will be less killing in the three realms. In the depths of the underworld, in the blood sea of the netherworld. The blood sea was boundless. Countless ghostly shadows floated in the sea of blood. A Tongtian figure sat cross-legged on a 12th-grade blood-red lotus. The bloody light around him rippled in all directions, causing the sea of blood to churn and the ghostly shadows to howl in anger. The two killing swords, Yuan Tu and Abi, were the most powerful and evil killing weapons below the four immortal slaying swords. They were currently circling around the 12th-grade blood-red lotus. As long as the blood sea did not wither, the Nether River would not die. He was the Nether River Patriarch, also known as the Nether River Patriarch. He was a great master of the Tongtian and one of the demi-saints in the world. He sat on the 12th-grade red lotus of karmic fire, a supreme treasure in the world. He created the Azura clan in the blood sea and possessed an indestructible body. As long as the blood sea did not wither, not even a saint could kill him. The Nether River Patriarch was also one of the most difficult demi-saints in the world. Rumble. The blood sea churned and the souls of the dead wailed. The Nether River Patriarch slowly opened his eyes. He quickly pinched his fingers and waves spread to the blood sea in all directions as if he was deducing some kind of heavenly secret. The Tongtian Dharma decree and the Celestial Emperor descends. This Yi Xian's past is unclear and his future is uncertain. Could he be the main character in the dark turmoil? The Nether River Patriarch said in a hoarse voice. The 12th-grade red lotus of karmic fire beneath him was buzzing. No matter how he deduced Yi Xian's past and future, all he saw was a fog. Suddenly, the Nether River Patriarch's aura paused, and even the churning blood sea stilled. After a dozen breaths, the blood sea began to churn again, but the Nether River Patriarch's voice was filled with extreme surprise. This kid actually has a great karma with me. Interesting indeed. I would like to see if this kid has good or bad karma with me. The Nether River Patriarch laughed eerily. As his smile disappeared, his vast and gloomy voice echoed in the endless blood sea. Where is Shiva? Your disciple is here. A blood-colored shadow stood quietly beside the Nether River Patriarch. Pluck 3 blood god fruits and send them to the celestial court as a congratulatory gift from the celestial emperor to Yi Xian. Tell Yi Tiandi that if he has time, he can come to my blood sea. Tell him that I'm inviting him to sit down and discuss Tao in the blood sea, the Nether River Patriarch said softly. Yes, master. Shiva received the order and left. Yi Xian. Yi Tiandi. Ha! The Nether River Patriarch laughed loudly and muttered, regardless of the dark turmoil or the great calamity of the world, as long as the blood sea does not dry up, I will live forever. If this Yi Xian can help me attain Tao, it would not be a waste for me to use these 3 blood god fruits to befriend him. Earth Immortal Realm, 5 Manor Temple. Under the ginseng fruit tree, a black-bearded Taoist in a purple-gold robe sat cross-legged. Qing Feng Mingyu. Ancestral Master, what are your orders? 2 Taoist children appeared and bowed to the Grand Immortal Zhenyuan. Pluck a ginseng fruit and send it to the 33rd Celestial Court. The Grand Immortal Zhenyuan closed his eyes as his voice was calm. Upon hearing the Grand Immortal Zhenyuan's words, the 2 Taoist children's expressions changed slightly. One of them probed, Ancestral Master, although this Yi Tiandi is the new lord of the 3 realms, the ginseng fruit is a panacea. How is he qualified to? Foolish children. This celestial emperor is not the Jade Emperor. A mere ginseng fruit is nothing to me. Don't say anything more. Go and return quickly, the Grand Immortal Zhenyuan said calmly. Yes, Ancestral Master. The 2 Taoist children bowed and answered. As the 2 Taoist children plucked the ginseng fruit and headed to the 33rd Celestial Court, the Grand Immortal Zhenyuan slowly opened his eyes. He looked at the 33rd Celestial Court from afar as an unfathomable smile appeared on his face. Then, he closed his eyes again to rest. Western Spirit Mountain. The chanting of the 3,000 truths rumbled as Duobao Rulai frowned. A hint of worry flashed across his calm eyes. Tongtian's decree had spread throughout the 3 realms. How could Duobao Rulai not have sensed it? Although he did not personally witness the Jade Emperor's soul dispersing, he had come to this conclusion by pinching his fingers. However, what shocked him the most was that the Tong Tian had actually bestowed a saint's decree to confer Yi Xian as the new celestial emperor. Chapter 481. One had to know that the Lord of the 3 realms was no small matter. In name, he ruled over all living beings in the 3 realms. The Jade Emperor and Queen Mother were conferred the title by the first saint of the heavenly Tao, Tao ancestor Hong Jun. To put it bluntly, even the Western sect's Mount Numinous had to obey the celestial emperor's will. However, the Jade Emperor was weak and forbearing in the past, so he did not dare to command the 3 realms. However, Yi Xian was definitely not the Jade Emperor. If he became the lord of the 3 realms and issued the celestial emperor's decree to Mount Numinous, what would Duobao Rulai do? That was only one of his worries. What worried Duobao Rulai the most was that Tong Tian did not care about the thoughts of the other saints. He was extremely domineering and privately conferred Yi Xian as the celestial emperor of the 3 realms. This also meant that the great god conferment tribulation of the past would repeat itself. The battle of Tao orthodoxy was no small matter. Duobao Rulai did not need to think to know that Tong Tian was going all out. He saw Yi Xian as the person who would make Jie school prosper and make Jie school rise again in the 3 realms. Duobao Rulai was once Tongtian's favorite disciple. He also knew his teacher's temperament very well. He was an extremely protective person. Although he was a saint, his evil aura was monstrous. Saints should not have taken action during the great god conferment tribulation back then. However, Tong Tian saw his disciples retreat in defeat. They either died or were injured. He directly manifested the 3 realms and ignored the saint's dignity to personally destroy Chan's school. This caused the Heavenly Lord of Primordial Beginning and the Heavenly Lord of Tao and Virtue to appear in the world. The 2 saints joined forces to fight against Tong Tian, and that battle nearly shattered the 3 realms. After that, the 2 Western saints joined in. Although Tong Tian had the Immortal Slaying Array and set up the 10,000 Immortals Array that could destroy the world, he still retreated in defeat. This was also Tongtian's biggest worry. As Tongtian's eldest disciple, Taoist Duobao knew his master too well. The anger and resentment of the great god conferment tribulation had always been in Tongtian's heart. He was afraid that Yi Xian becoming the celestial emperor was also the beginning of the great god conferment tribulation of heaven. Ba. Duobao Rulai said sympathetically, Yi Xian, Yi Tiandi. With the saint's protection, even this penniless monk won't be able to stop you from ascending to the position of celestial emperor. I hope you can be grateful for the blessings of the three realms. If you continue to kill, even this penniless monk's master won't be able to save you. Duo Bao Rulai shook his head helplessly. It was as if he could see Yi Xian's future. Duo Bao Rulai knew very well that Yi Xian wasn't the Jade Emperor. When he ascended to the position of Heavenly Emperor, he definitely wouldn't be as weak and patient as the Jade Emperor. The three realms would definitely be in turmoil because of him. Although Yi Xian had ascended to Celestial Emperor and had the support of the Tong Tian, one should not forget that there were a total of 6 sages in this world. The Tong Tian was only one of them. If Yi Xian went too far and attracted the attention of the other sages, he would only end up dead. Of course, Duo Bao Rulai also had a huge hidden worry. However, he suppressed this thought with all his might. This was because this hidden worry in his heart made him feel fearful. This hidden worry was actually related to the legend of the seventh saint. Pangu split the heavens and Hung Jun passed down the Tao. There were a total of 7 saint positions in this world. This was what Tao ancestor Hung Jun said personally. Tao ancestor Hung Jun merged with the Tao and represented the will of the heavenly Tao. He wasn't a saint and had transcended the 3 realms. He was an immeasurable heavenly Tao saint. There were 7 saint positions. Tao ancestor Hung Jun had bestowed 7 streaks of primordial violet vapor. This was also the key to becoming a saint. The 3 pure ones had relied on the primordial violet vapor to become a saint. The 2 saints of the West had also relied on the primordial violet vapor to become a saint. The 6th saint, Nuwa, had 2 great merits, mending the heavens and creating humans. She had also relied on the primordial violet vapor to become the 6th saint. However, there were a total of 7 saint positions under the heavenly Tao. 6 saints had already appeared, but there was still a saint missing. The whereabouts of the 7th streak of primordial violet vapor was also unknown. Duo Bao Rulai was afraid. He was afraid that the last saint would be born in this great tribulation. He was even more afraid that Yi Xian would be the last saint in this world. The mystical mountain of the West had a great enmity with Yi Xian. As the master of the mystical mountain, he naturally bore the brunt of it. If Yi Xian was really the last saint in this world, he, Duo Bao Rulai, would definitely be in great trouble. The most crucial problem was that the 7th saint position was empty. Whether it was a quasi-saint or a figure in the 3rd watershed of the grand heavenly Tao, everyone was scheming to seize the last saint position. If Yi Xian was really the last heaven's destined saint, this would also sever the path of all Daluo Jingxian and quasi-saints. Duo Bao Rulai felt as if he was sitting on pins and needles when he thought of this outcome. He felt a chill run down his spine. He kept praying in his heart, hoping that Yi Xian wasn't the heaven's destined saint. The boundless land was vast and boundless. Prehistoric ancient beasts galloped on the ground. Ancient divine birds whistled in the sky. An ancient and boundless aura rushed over, as if it was bringing people back to the distant and unknown prehistoric lands. The Tong Tian peak pierced the clouds. Countless powerful shamans galloped in the mountains. They tore apart prehistoric ancient beasts with their bare hands. When they reached the heavens in a single step, they killed the ancient divine birds. They laughed wildly between the heavens and the earth. Their domineering auras, which were bathed in the blood of beasts, bloomed wildly in this vast land. This was the ancient land of the shaman tribe. Although it was located in the 3 realms, it was independent. With the shaman tribe's divine technique, it was impossible for even Daluo Jingxian to enter the ancient land of the shaman tribe. During the Great Shaman War, the shaman tribe suffered heavy casualties. They retreated to this ancestral land and recuperated for an eternity. This was also the last pure land of the shaman tribe. A white jade palace stood on top of the Tongtian peak. A slender and graceful figure stood alone on the peak, looking up at the sky. He became the celestial emperor. The goddess of Guanghan murmured. A hint of joy appeared in her starry eyes. Shao Yi, don't think about him anymore. Even if he has the Tongtian's support, even if he reached the Zenith Heaven realm, killed the Jade Emperor, and became the master of the three realms, so what? Brother Quafu. The goddess of Guanghan whispered softly. A hint of helplessness flashed across her eyes. Quafu walked across the sky and stood behind the goddess of Guanghan. Looking at the cold back of the goddess of Guanghan, he sighed and said, Shao Yi, although he became the celestial emperor, he was also involved in the dispute of the three realms. He even started the immeasurable calamity. He will eventually fall between heaven and earth. You'd better not be too entangled with him. Unfortunately, Quafu's advice did not move the goddess of Guanghan. She just stared at the sky above her head in a daze, as if she was looking at Yi Xian in the celestial court through the ancient world of the shaman tribe. Looking at the goddess of Guanghan, Quafu shook his head helplessly and said, De Yi is about to come out of seclusion. If he knows that you miss Yi Xian, he will definitely go to the celestial court to fight with him. Think about it carefully. After saying that, Quafu turned and left. However, he did not see the sadness in the goddess of Guanghan's eyes. Yi Xian, if you can become a sage to be one day, we will have a chance to meet again. The goddess of Guanghan smiled bitterly. Her eyes became more and more absent-minded. Chapter 482. 33 Layers of the Celestial Court, 100,000-mile Jade Lake. Yi Xian sat high on the throne of the Celestial Emperor. The immortals of the Jia sect looked excited as they bowed and worshipped Yi Xian. The rest of the immortals looked pale, but they still stood up from their cushions and bowed to Yi Xian. They even shouted the name of Yi Tiandi. Obviously, when the Tongtian gave the saint's decree to make Yi Xian the rightful celestial emperor, no one could go against the saint's decree. That would be suicidal. Everyone below the saint was an ant. The saint's will could not be defied. This was not just a saying. It was an unchanging law. Rise, my dear friends. Yi Xian had a smile on his face as he looked at the immortals in all directions. His voice was calm and unwavering, and no one could tell that he was excited at all. However, Yi Xian's clenched fists betrayed his feelings, proving how excited he was. How many years had it been? A total of 6,000 years. He had spent 6,000 years in order to seize the Celestial Emperor's throne. When he first entered the Celestial Court from the human realm to the Earth Immortal realm, he was only a Grand Unity Mystic Immortal. He was just an ant in the three realms. He plotted, killed, and fled for millions of miles. He fought with immortals from all over the world. He even struggled at death's door under the oppression of various orthodoxies. Yi Xian kept telling himself that he would rise in the three realms sooner or later. He would definitely take the Celestial Emperor's throne and make all living beings in the three realms worship him. The heavens did not disappoint those who worked hard. Today, after 6,000 years, he finally ascended the Celestial Emperor's throne and made all the immortals bow to him. He could finally stand between heaven and earth and was no longer the weak person of the past. Of course, ascending the Celestial Emperor's throne was only the beginning. Yi Xian knew that he still had a long way to go. However, he believed that he was not as easy to bully as the Jade Emperor. He would also let all living beings in the three realms know that since he, Yi Xian, was the lord of the three realms, all living beings had to act according to his will. All lands under the heavens belonged to the Emperor, and all lands were the Emperor's subjects. All living beings respected the Lord of the Three Realms. Since he was the Celestial Emperor, he could suppress all enemies in the world. He did not kill or bully the immortals of various orthodoxies. When the saint's decree was issued, Yi Xian's name was the Celestial Emperor. Yi Xian did not want to kill people as he did in the past. Yi did not want him to do it. In 100 years, I will ascend to the throne of the Heavenly Emperor. By then, I invite all orthodoxies to gather in the Heavenly Court. Of the immortals of the Immortal Realm immortals. And immortals of the Jade Immortals sighed helplessly and left. And immortals left IMS. Palace. Of palace. The palace had no roof, and the stars filled the sky. Yi Xian sat on the celestial emperor's throne. Zhao Gongming and the goddess of golden spirit stood below him. Emperor Ziwei and Shen Gongbao sat beside Yi Xian. There were no outsiders. Congratulations to the celestial emperor for ascending to the position of celestial emperor. The entire Jia sect will never betray you. Zhao Gongming said excitedly. Ha! Shen Gongbao stroked his beard and laughed. Fellow Daoist Gongming, we have to change the way we address him. We should call him Yi Tiandi. Not bad, not bad. A worthy younger brother is stupid. Zhao Gongming slapped his forehead and laughed. Goddess of Golden Spirit greets Yi Tiandi. The goddess of Golden Spirit bowed. This could be considered that she had officially met Yi Xian. It also proved that the Jia sect's zenith heaven had already recognized Yi Xian as the celestial emperor. Goddess, there's no need to be so polite, Yi Xian said with a smile. Celestial emperor, my Jia sect has declined since the great god conferment tribulation. I thought that there would be no chance for us to rise again. However, the heavens have blessed my Jia sect. Celestial Emperor, you have appeared out of nowhere. You will definitely lead my Jia sect to rise again in the three realms, the goddess of Golden Spirit said sincerely. Looking at the goddess of Golden Spirit's solemn expression, Yi Xian's smile disappeared. He knew that the goddess of Golden Spirit still had something to say. It was probably related to Daluo Jingxian and the others. As expected, the goddess of Golden Spirit paused for a moment and continued, ever since the great god conferment tribulation, the immortals of my Jia sect have either died or been conferred as gods by the god role. Although endless time has passed and my Jia sect has declined, there are still more than 10 Daluo Jingxian who are still alive. I have already sent a message for them to rush to the celestial court. They will definitely assist the celestial emperor in doing something big. As soon as the goddess of Golden Spirit finished speaking, Yi Xian nodded. He knew that the goddess of Golden Spirit was expressing her loyalty to him on behalf of the Jia sect. Don't worry, goddess. As long as the Jia sect does not let me down, I will definitely not let them down. Yi Xian said solemnly. He was also telling the goddess of Golden Spirit that as long as the Jia sect was loyal to him, he would definitely not mistreat the people of the Jia sect. Celestial Emperor, there are many things waiting to be done. The people of the 33rd Celestial Court are in a state of panic. The most important thing now is to appease the people, Zhao Gongming suggested. Shen Gongbao nodded and agreed, Gongming, a worthy younger brother is right. To resist foreign aggression, we must first stabilize the internal situation. Stabilizing the people of the Celestial Court is the most important thing. As the two of them finished speaking, Yi Xian did not say anything. Instead, he thought for a while and said, the Celestial Court is weak and only exists in name. These so-called immortals are too mediocre. Even if there are scheming people among them, there is nothing to be afraid of. I have seen the immortals of the Celestial Court, and there are almost no immortals in the All-Heaven realm, let alone the so-called Daluo Jingxian. I have the intention to expand the power of the Celestial Court. Do you have any suggestions? Hearing Yi Xian's words, Shen Gongbao and the others were slightly stunned. Obviously, they could see that Yi Xian had great ambitions. This also made Shen Gongbao probe, Celestial Emperor, you mean? There is no discrimination in education. 10,000 immortals will come. Yi Xian's gaze was strange, but his voice was very calm. As Yi Xian's words fell, the few people present were stunned. Only Shen Gongbao and the other immortals of the Jia sect had an indescribable passion in their eyes. There is no discrimination in education. 10,000 immortals will come. This sentence came from Tong Tian. Before the apatheicized war, the Jia sect could be said to be the first orthodoxy in the world. Even if the Chan sect and the Western Buddhism joined forces, they would not dare to say that they could crush the Jia sect. Regardless of whether it was demons, ghosts, or orthodox immortals, as long as they had the ability and talent, they could join the Jia sect. Tong Tian was not stingy. He passed down great divine sense to his disciples, and for a time, the Jia sect had the reputation of having 10,000 immortals come. Although the Jia sect was the first orthodoxy in the world before the apotheosized tribulation, because it accepted hundreds of rivers, its disciples were naturally mixed. This could be said to have both advantages and disadvantages. Today, Yi Xian shouted the slogan of the Jia sect in the past, which was also the doctrine of the Jia sect in the past. Naturally, he had a plan in mind. First of all, the celestial court of the 33 celestial court commanded all living beings in the three realms. However, they did not have the strength to match the celestial court. Look at the group of immortals. The highest cultivation level was only a primordial unity golden immortal. Even Daluo Jingxian was only the 4 great emperors. The rest of the Daluo immortals were even more obedient. It could be said that the 33 celestial court of the 33 celestial court was really weak in the world. Among the 4 great emperors, Emperor Zhenwu was killed in the past. Emperor Go Chen's whereabouts were unknown. Now that Yi Xian had ascended to the position of celestial emperor, only Emperor Ziwei was left among the 4 great emperors. Chapter 483. This was because Empress Myrtle Star was on good terms with Yi Xian. If it was someone else who sat on the throne, Empress Myrtle Star would have long since left. From this, it could be seen that the heavenly court was too weak. Expanding the celestial court's strength and building a true supreme celestial court was the first thing Yi Xian wanted to do after he became the celestial emperor. Yi Xian liked this saying very much because it could help him improve the strength of the celestial court quickly. Of course, Yi Xian didn't recruit just anyone. If it was like the Jia school back then, even though he was extremely powerful, he would still end up in a decline due to the fact that his disciples were all good and bad. In fact, the root of all this was Tong Tian. Although Tong Tian was a saint, he was not a good leader. He was too protective of his disciples. Even if there were people who were disloyal, Tong Tian could not bear to kill them. This was also Tong Tian's biggest weakness, and he was not a qualified leader. For example, Duo Bao Rulai was the first disciple of Tong Tian, but he turned to the Western sect during the Great God Investiture Tribulation and became the master of the Western Spiritual Mountain. Tong Tian did not care about it. Although he was angry, he did not kill Duo Bao Rulai because of the saint's face. However, Yi Xian was different. He believed in killing ruthlessly. Anyone who did not listen to him would die, regardless of whether they were enemies or subordinates. Yi Xian's will could not be defied. Anyone who was disloyal would be killed. This was also Yi Xian's way of doing things. Yi Xian was very clear. No matter if it was demons, ghosts, or immortals of the evil Tao, as long as their cultivation was high enough and they acted ruthlessly enough, they could be recruited into the celestial court. They could be imparted with great magical powers and be given spiritual medicines. Of course, Yi Xian was not Tong Tian. Although he was protective, there was a limit. If someone dared to betray him, Yi Xian would let that person know what it meant to live a life worse than death. Yi Xian said calmly, "Shen Gongbao, pass my decree to the 3 realms. No matter if it is demons, ghosts, or immortals of the evil Tao, anyone with great ability can be listed as an immortal and become a great immortal of the celestial court." "Yes, Celestial Emperor." Shen Gongbao answered respectfully. "Zhao Gongming, I confer you the title of Inspector Heavenly Ambassador. Investigate all the immortals in the 33 heavens. Anyone who is incompetent and mediocre will be stripped of his immortal position and banished to the mortal world." A series of orders were issued, and Zhao Gongming kept them in mind. However, a somber atmosphere rose in the bullfighting palace. Obviously, Yi Xian did not intend to stabilize the hearts of the people. What was stabilizing the hearts of the people? The current celestial court was just a joke. The so-called immortals were extremely mediocre. Why would Yi Xian care about these good-for-nothings? If they were obedient, he could be at ease as a little immortal official. If they were not obedient, he could just kill them all. Because Yi Xian wanted to build a supreme celestial court, these good-for-nothings were useless to him. Moreover, the most important problem was Yi Xian had just become the new celestial emperor, and Tang Tian had issued a decree. However, he still needed to go through the formalities, and that was the coronation ceremony in 100 years. Why did Yi Xian want to postpone the coronation ceremony to 100 years later? He was giving the orthodoxies a chance to prepare, and also giving himself time to reorganize the celestial court. 100 years later, he would worship the heavens and ascend to the throne. The leaders of the orthodoxies would have to attend the ceremony. This was also a necessary process. Since Yi Xian wanted to ascend to the throne, he would not be as weak as the Jade Emperor. He wanted to reinvent the celestial court in 100 years. When the leaders of the orthodoxies came to the celestial court, he would also express his attitude to them. What attitude? Yi Xian, the master of the three realms, commanded the heavens and earth. Those who obey me will live, and those who resist me will die. This was the attitude Yi Xian wanted to express. He was not the Jade Emperor of the past, who had his hands tied in front of the orthodoxies. Anyone who disobeyed his orders would be the enemy of Yi Xian. And those who became Yi Xian's enemy would only face death. After Yi Xian finished explaining everything, Shen Gongbao and the others left the bullfighting palace, following Yi Xian's instructions. This left only Emperor Ziwei and Yi Xian in the bullfighting palace. Heaven Emperor, you. Without waiting for Empress Myrtle Star to finish speaking, Yi Xian lightly interrupted her and said, "Big brother, there's no need to call me that. Although we haven't become sworn brothers, little brother will remember big brother's kindness from back then." Looking at Yi Xian's sincere face, Emperor Ziwei smiled happily, knowing that he had not misjudged Yi Xian. Even though Yi Xian had ascended to the throne, he did not show any signs of arrogance. "Heaven Emperor, you can't do that. Since you are the master of the three realms, you can't be careless with the way you address me," Emperor Ziwei said. "Brother, you must be joking. If you were in front of outsiders, you would respect me as the heavenly emperor. However, when there's no one around, please call me brother." Yi Xian smiled as he spoke. "Ha, all right." Emperor Ziwei laughed out loud. "A worthy younger brother, I have something to say, but I don't know if I should say it." Emperor Ziwei's smile disappeared, and his expression turned solemn. "Brother, please say it," Yi Xian said softly. 10 breaths passed, and Emperor Ziwei seemed to be thinking about something. Yi Xian did not disturb him, as if he knew what Emperor Ziwei wanted to say. "A worthy younger brother, you are now the Heaven Emperor and the master of the three realms in name. But you have to know that the battle of orthodoxies is no small matter. Even though the Tang Tian is supporting you, the other orthodoxies also have sages by their side." Emperor Ziwei said worriedly, then looked at Yi Xian and continued, "A worthy younger brother, listen to my advice. Since you have become the master of the three realms, you should let go of the grudge between you and the spiritual mountains Chan school. Only then can you stabilize your position as Heaven Emperor." Yi Xian shook his head when he heard Emperor Ziwei's words. His eyes were slightly drifting, and he murmured, "Brother, you don't know. As the saying goes, if you don't advance, you will fall behind. If I act like the Jade Emperor, even if I can live in peace for thousands of years, I will only be a pawn in the hands of the sages." When Yi Xian said this, the Daoyuo immortal light rose slightly, and he slowly rose from the Heaven Emperor's throne. When he opened and closed his eyes, he looked at the world in all directions, and an extremely domineering and fierce aura bloomed around him. "I, Yi Xian, have cultivated for 6,000 years. I have never thought of being under anyone, and I have never thought of enduring humiliation to survive. Since I have become the master of the three realms, I naturally have to command the three realms. Even if the orthodoxies have sages by their side, they cannot stop me." After Yi Xian finished speaking, he turned around to look at Empress Myrtle Star. His eyes were faintly glowing as he said, "Brother, if you're willing to stay by my side and help me achieve great things, then if I, Yi Xian, ascend to the saint throne one day, the throne of the heavenly emperor will also be taken by you." Hiss. Emperor Ziwei sucked in a breath of cold air and looked at Yi Xian in shock. His entire person became a little sluggish. He had never thought that Yi Xian would have such great ambitions. He actually coveted the high and mighty position of a sage.
Chapter 484. A worthy younger brother, you. Emperor Ziwei had a complicated look in his eyes. He didn't know what to say. Elder brother, whether you believe it or not, the position of Celestial Emperor is just the beginning. In the future, I will definitely become a sage, but right now, I need elder brother's help. Yi Xian sincerely said, his words filled with great confidence. Looking at Yi Xian's expectant eyes, Emperor Ziwei's expression changed. He knew that Yi Xian wanted him to stay in the celestial court. Emperor Ziwei fell into great hesitation. This also made him take a deep breath. After 10 breaths of time, he looked up at Yi Xian. His gaze became firm as he said, "Good. Since a worthy younger brother wants to become a sage, then I, Ziwei, am not a coward. I will help a worthy younger brother." 3 days and 3 nights passed. Emperor Ziwei walked out of the bullfighting palace. No one knew what the two talked about, but Emperor Ziwei directly went to the lower realm. 100 years later, when Yi Xian officially ascended the throne, he would return to the celestial court again. It was just that on that day, he wouldn't be himself. Perhaps he would bring Yi Xian a big surprise. In the bullfighting palace, Yi Xian looked up at the luminous stars. When his eyes opened and closed, a firm light flashed through them. His hoarse voice also echoed in the bullfighting palace. "The struggle for the great Tao, all laws of the heart, this is just the beginning." Puff! A mouthful of blood spurted out from Yi Xian's mouth. His 3,000 blood threads turned black, and the blood moon mark on his forehead disappeared. His face instantly turned pale. This was because he had been in the state of the tribulation transcender transformation. Although this was a heaven-defying technique, it also put a great burden on Yi Xian. When everyone left, the backlash of the tribulation transcender transformation finally appeared. Fortunately, Yi Xian cultivated a technique that used strength to prove one's Tao. For him, this backlash could be recovered as long as he cultivated for a period of time. The 3 dimensions were in an uproar, and all living beings were in an uproar. The Jade Emperor and Queen Mother had perished, and Yi Xian had become the new Celestial Emperor. When this news spread throughout the 3 realms, it immediately caused an uproar in the 3 realms. They simply couldn't believe such a ridiculous thing. Before the living beings of the 3 realms could recover from this matter, a piece of news that shocked the 3 realms spread. The Celestial Emperor's decree spread throughout the 3 realms. This was the first time Yi Tiandi had issued a decree. There were only 8 words: education without discrimination, 10,000 immortals pay homage. Whether it was demons, ghosts, immortals of the 2 evil sects, or even many unknown itinerant immortals, they were all shocked by Yi Xian's decree.
This was because they knew very well what these words meant. Since ancient times, immortals and demons couldn't coexist. It was the wish of every monster to become an orthodox immortal. They didn't want to walk the 3 realms with the name of demons all day long. If they could become great immortals of the celestial court, their birth would become orthodox. Just as some of the demons were hesitating and didn't know whether they should join Yi Xian or not, a shocking piece of news came over. The monster kings of the 72 grottos of Mount Huagua were all heading towards the celestial court. The sky-devouring toad and other great monster kings of the North Continent were also heading towards the celestial court. All of a sudden, a group of monsters gathered, setting off a huge wave in the 3 realms. The three realms were vast and boundless. It was unknown how many great experts were hidden. They didn't have any orthodoxies, nor did they have any origins. Some of them were just small monsters that had cultivated the Tao and lived for endless years before reaching the zenith heavenly realm. Although they weren't well known, they did exist in various parts of the three realms. However, under the suppression of various orthodoxies, they had no choice but to lay low. Yi Xian was a fearsome name. When he became the Celestial Emperor, some great experts of the two evil sects were unusually excited. Everyone in the three realms knew that Yi Tiandi had never cared about one's origins. Back in the North Continent, he'd taken the form of a Tongtian monster and had 10 monster kings under his command. Now that Yi Xian had killed the Jade Emperor and Queen Mother, he'd gained the Tongtian's support and become the new ruler of the three realms. This was an opportunity for all great experts of the two evil sects to rise to prominence. It would also allow them to stand on equal footing with the immortals of the other orthodoxies. As the news spread, it spread from 1 person to 10, 10 to 100, 100 to 1,000, 1,000 to 10,000. When the news spread throughout the three realms, countless demon kings and evil fiends rushed to the heavenly court. The southern heavenly gate of the 33rd celestial court was wide open. The 4 heavenly kings wore bitter expressions, but they could only smile apologetically as they allowed all kinds of demons to enter the celestial court. There was no lack of extremely terrifying great experts of the evil sections. The Blood King, the moon-devouring great crocodile, the evil immortal of unruffled emotions, the demoness of 9 desires, demons danced wildly as evil sects gathered. There were even many itinerant immortals among them. For a moment, the 33rd celestial court was bustling with activity. There were Grand Unity Golden Immortals, Great Firmament Mystic Immortals, and even great evildoers of the 3rd firmament of Zenith Heavenly Realm. The number of them was unimaginably terrifying. Clearly, they had all come for Yi Xian's name. Tens of thousands of immortals came to court. This grand occasion appeared in the celestial court. These monstrous demons all came for Yi Xian because they saw Yi Xian as a kindred spirit. After all, Yi Xian himself was a peerless demon. Skyward Palace. Dojos rose from the ground as temporary residences for the demons. Shen Gongbao held the celestial ending sword in his hand to suppress the place. This also prevented some hot-tempered demons from causing trouble. Time passed day by day. The 33rd celestial court was overcrowded. Tongtian monster kings, great experts of the two evil sects, and great experts of the lower realm were all waiting patiently for Yi Xian to officially ascend to the throne of Celestial Emperor in 100 years. This was because when Yi Xian ascended to the throne and conferred titles to the various immortals, the old order of the Celestial Court would be broken and the once useless immortals of the Celestial Court would be abolished. The vacated important positions in the Celestial Court would naturally be occupied by the capable. This was also the reason why all the great demons and immortals had gathered in the Celestial Court. During this time, the most bitter were the original members of the Celestial Court. Most of them were immortals from the Chan sect. They were cautious every day, deeply afraid that Yi Xian, the new Celestial Emperor, would make an example out of their old subjects. Unfortunately, Yi Xian had no intention of paying attention to these old subjects of the Celestial Court. In his eyes, they were nothing more than trash. 90 years passed in a hurry. There were 10 years left before the 100-year deadline. The great orthodoxies of the three realms were preparing to head to the Celestial Court to attend Yi Xian's coronation. In the depths of the Celestial Court, in the Peach Garden, peach blossoms filled the air and a fragrant aroma wafted through the air. The boundless peach garden was rich with immortal qi. Just one breath of it would greatly increase one's cultivation. The peach garden was one of the forbidden areas of the Celestial Court. Apart from the Jade Emperor and Queen Mother, no one else was allowed to enter. Moreover, the peach garden was protected by the Great Barrier Formation. Even Daluo Jingxian wouldn't be able to enter. Yi Xian sat cross-legged under a Tongtian peach tree. Dozens of peach pits were piled up beside him. Judging from the appearance of the pits, they were all 9,000-year-old immortal peaches. Yi Xian exhaled a mouthful of turbid air, causing the space around him to distort slightly. Yi Xian opened his eyes. A total of 36 9,000-year-old peaches of immortality only increased my cultivation base by 1 celestial layer. Aside from the first peach, which gave me a great boost in my cultivation base, the other peaches only gave me a slight boost in my immortal power. Yi Xian murmured to himself and shook his head slowly. He knew that he was walking the path of becoming a saint through strength. The immortal qi he needed would definitely exceed that of an ordinary Daluo Jingxian. However, he didn't expect that 38 9,000-year-old immortal peaches would only increase his cultivation to the second sky of Daluo Jingxian. Celestial Emperor. Suddenly, a golden light quietly appeared beside Yi Xian. Shen Gongbao's incarnation appeared. What is it? Yi Xian sat cross-legged without moving. His voice was calm. Thousands of demons have gathered in the celestial court. Among them, there are 6 Daluo Jingxian. The Golden Spirit Saintess has brought back 5 Daluo Jingxian. Your former subordinates are also waiting to meet you in the celestial court. When would you like to meet them? Shen Gongbao asked respectfully. In 10 years, I will officially ascend to the position of Celestial Emperor. I will naturally meet them then. However, before that, I still need to meet someone. This person is too important. Yi Xian murmured to himself. He stood up from under the peach tree. When he took a step forward, he quietly disappeared from the peach garden. Chapter 485. 33rd Layer of Heaven, Tushita Palace. Other than Tao ancestor Hung Jun, the strongest of the 6 great sages was the sect master of the Ren sect. Laozi was the strongest and his title was the Grand Pure One, the Lord of Tao and Virtue. He was the leader of the 3 Clear Ones. There was a widely circulated story about Lao Tzu becoming a saint. Before Lao Tzu attained Tao, he happened to pass by a farm one day. On a whim, he asked a farmer a question. Lao Tzu said, "How high is the sky, how wide is the earth?" The farmer replied, 9 zhang is the sky, 5 mu is the earth. Lao Tzu asked in surprise, "Boundless heaven and earth, how can it be so big?" The farmer laughed foolishly and said, "When I look up, I see 9 zhang of sky. When I look down, I see 5 mu of farmland. This is my heaven and earth." Lao Tzu was surprised, and then suddenly understood. He bowed 3 times to the farmer. After a moment of epiphany, Lao Tzu attained Tao. Riding a green ox, he passed through Han Valley, his purple aura vast and mighty for 30,000 li. He even made a great vow to establish Ren Jiao, and finally became the first saint after Hung Jun. In Tushita Palace, there was a Taoist named Taisheng Lao Jun. Legend has it that Taisheng Lao Jun was one of Lao Tzu's external incarnations. He replaced Lao Tzu in overseeing the celestial court, assisting Tian Di in managing the 3 realms. There was also a legend that Taisheng Lao Jun was formed from the good corpse that Laozi had chopped off after he failed to become a saint by cutting off the 3 corpses. However, this saying was too vague and could not be taken seriously. As everyone knew, the celestial court had 33 layers of heaven. The Fighting Bull Palace and Lingshao Hall were located at the 32nd layer, overseen by Tian Di. As for the 33rd layer, it was Taisheng Laojuan's Tao Field, Tushita Palace. It must be said that Tushita Palace had a thunderous reputation in the 3 realms. There was no living creature that did not know of Tushita Palace's existence. 9 transformations Daluo Jin Dan, Jade Marrow Cleansing Jin Dan, Eternal Creation Dan, any kind of medicinal pill could make a mortal immediately become an immortal after taking it. It could also significantly improve the immortal's cultivation base. If the Tushita Palace was a forbidden area of the celestial court, it would be more accurate to say that the Tushita Palace was the greatest treasure trove of the celestial court. Of course, there were countless people in the heaven, earth, and mortal realms who coveted the pills in the Tushita palace. However, after countless years, other than the monkey who had been deliberately arranged by the saint to devour a large number of pills, no one else could casually enter the Tushita palace. This was because the Tushita palace was overseen by the Grand Supreme Elderly Lord, who was a clone of the sage Lao Tzu. Unless one was tired of living, who would dare to barge into the Tushita palace? The 33 heavens. The simple and unadorned palace was vast and boundless. There were thousands of strands of auspicious energy, and celestial light flourished. Floating clouds rippled in the 33 layers of heaven, and a vast palace stood there faintly discernible. There were 99,999 white jade steps that led straight to Taishang Laojuan's Tushita palace. Amidst the rising clouds, a tall and slender figure was slowly climbing up. Thump, thump, thump. Yi Xian walked up the white jade stairs one step at a time. With every step he took, a strand of Tao sound came from beneath his feet. It was as if his entire body was in harmony with the heavens and earth, giving off a natural feeling of the Tao. There were 50 great Taos, and 49 heavenly Tao. Under the operation of the heavenly Tao, there would always be a chance for survival. Yi Xian was that chance, and he was also the greatest variable in the three realms. Logically speaking, the Tushita palace was right in front of him. Yi Xian did not have to go through the trouble of climbing the white jade steps. However, Taishang Laojun was a clone of the sage Lao Tzu. Since he had paid a visit, he had to show some basic respect. He quickly walked past the 99,999 white jade steps. Amidst the rising clouds, the Tushita palace could be vaguely seen. 2 Tao children stood on either side of the main door, smiling as they looked at Yi Xian. Greetings, Yi Tiandi. When Yi Xian strolled to the front of the Tushita palace, the 2 Tao children cupped their hands and bowed. It was as if they were already aware of Yi Xian's arrival and did not make a fuss about it. Golden immortals of the all-heaven? The 2 Tao children looked like they were carved from jade. They looked very lovable. However, Yi Xian could tell their cultivation levels at a glance. This made him even more curious about Taishang Laojun. If the 2 Tao children guarding the door were golden immortals of the all-heaven, what cultivation level was Taishang Laojun in the Tushita palace? Was he the 3rd watershed of the zenith heaven realm? Or, could he be the legendary quasi-sage? Ancestral Master has been waiting in the palace for a long time. Celestial Emperor, please. The 2 Tao children smiled. The main door of the Tushita palace opened with a rumble. A rich elixir fragrance also spread out from the Tushita palace. Yi Xian nodded. He dismissed the doubts in his heart and strode into the Tushita palace. Regardless of whether Taishang Laojun was the 3rd watershed of the Daoyuo Dao or the legendary quasi-sage, he had to come today. He would not leave any variables in the celestial court. To put it bluntly, once Yi Xian ascended to the position of Celestial Emperor, he could not let anyone sleep beside his bed. Taishang Laojun was like a sharp sword hanging over his head. This hidden danger had to be dealt with. In the Tushita palace, a pill furnace was brightly colored. The bottom of the furnace was burning fiercely. The flames were extremely hot. Even though Yi Xian entered the Tushita palace, he still felt his spirit burning. This also proved that the flames burning the pill furnace were not ordinary. Around the palace, rows of purple golden gourds hung in the void. Specks of golden light and immortal chi rose from the purple golden gourds. Clearly, they contained unimaginable golden pills. An extremely mysterious 8 trigrams formation was engraved in the void. The crisscrossing patterns were extremely mysterious. A white-haired old Taoist was sitting cross-legged on a praying mat. His eyes were closed as if he was meditating. Yi Xian had his hands behind his back. He looked at the old Taoist from the void. When he opened and closed his eyes, a cold light quietly flashed across his eyes. Needless to say, this old Taoist was the legendary Taishang Laojun. He was also the incarnation of the sage Lao Tzu. He was very strong. He could not see through this person's cultivation. This was what Yi Xian felt at this moment. What made Yi Xian feel a little solemn was that although Taishang Laojun was sitting cross-legged in the void and did not show any power, Yi Xian's indestructible primordial spirit was throbbing. It was sending him a signal of danger. "You're here." Taishang Laojun slowly opened his eyes. He gently swept the horsetail whisk in his hand. A praying mat quietly appeared in front of Yi Xian. The seat of honor of the Celestial Emperor. Yi Xian sat cross-legged on the praying mat and did not make a sound. This was because he knew that Taishang Laojun must have known that he had killed the Jade Emperor and Queen Mother. Since he did not come out to stop him, he was indirectly admitting that he had given up the position of Celestial Emperor. He also knew what he had come to the Tushita Palace to do today. The three realms have changed. Yi Tiandi was born with the mandate of heaven. He should think for the safety of the three realms. Only then can he live as long as the heavens and earth and enjoy the position of Celestial Emperor forever, Taishang Laojun said gently. Legend has it that the sage Lao Tzu wanted to imitate Tao ancestor Hung Jun and cut the three corpses to become a sage. Unfortunately, he did not succeed in the end. The good corpse that he cut off became Taishang Laojun. I wonder if this is true. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. Taishang Laojun was slightly stunned when he heard Yi Xian's words. He looked at Yi Xian thoughtfully. Then, he smiled and said, as the saying goes, 3 people make a tiger. When something is false, it becomes true through word of mouth. What a joke. You. Rumble. The mountains and rivers shook as the void collapsed. Yi Xian's expression was cold as the golden immortal light rolled out. The extremely terrifying aura of a celestial emperor burst forth, completely unafraid of Taishang Laojun's threat. Let's not talk about you not being able to kill me. Even if you had the ability to kill me, would you dare to do so? Yi Xian said sinisterly, causing Taishang Laojun's expression to darken as the killing intent around him slowly dissipated. Before Lao Tzu attained the Tao, he walked the path of severing the 3 corpses to become a saint. Back then, he severed the good corpse, and you were formed from the good corpse, becoming Taishang Laojun. In the end, Lao Tzu became a saint through merit, but he placed you in the celestial court. After countless years, you've developed a consciousness of your own. I'm afraid you've always wanted to escape from the saint's control, right? Yi Xian said tirelessly, his words extremely certain. Ha! Taishang Laojun laughed loudly and said, a dignified celestial emperor actually believes in the rumors of the world. I attained the Tao in the primordial age and have nothing to do with Saint Lao Tzu. Your words are simply absurd. Absurd? Yi Xian sneered and said, then I don't understand. Since the primordial age until now, why did you hide here and rarely appear in the eyes of the people of the 3 realms? Moreover, when I killed the Jade Emperor and Queen Mother, you didn't appear to stop me? Taishang Laojun's expression darkened when he heard Yi Xian's words. He didn't answer Yi Xian's question for a long time. Actually, the reason is very simple. You were formed from the good corpse that Lao Tzu severed. If I'm not wrong, you didn't interfere when I killed the Jade Emperor and Queen Mother. I'm afraid it was Saint Lao Tzu's idea, right? Yi Xian chuckled. Even if you're right, so what? Taishang Laojun finally spoke. Taishang Laojun is the Celestial Emperor. Today, I came to the Tushita Palace to make you leave the Celestial Court. Logically speaking, you should have left long ago, but you chose to wait for me here. This is not the will of the saint. It also means that you have developed self-awareness and want to see for yourself what kind of person I, Yi Xian, am and whether I can help you break free from the control of the saint. Yi Xian spoke frankly as if he was talking about something very casual. Looking at Yi Xian's confidence, Taisheng Laojun remained silent for a long time. It was as if he had silently agreed with Yi Xian's words. Yi Xian, you're very smart, but smart people die very quickly. I hope you can take care of yourself and not find trouble for yourself. Taisheng Laojun secretly transmitted his voice. Clearly, he was afraid that the saint would eavesdrop. I can make a deal with you. As for the content of the deal, on this day, the Tushita Palace was in a state of isolation. No one knew what Yi Xian and Taisheng Laojun talked about. After 7 days and 7 nights, Taisheng Laojun disappeared, leaving only the Tushita Palace in the 33rd heaven. All laws were silent and there were no calamities. Yi Xian stood in the Tushita Palace with his hands behind his back. A strange smile appeared on his lips. When he opened and closed his eyes, there was a hint of mockery. Taisheng Laojun was very strong. If Yi Xian guessed correctly, this person's cultivation base should be in the 9th heaven of Daluo and was about to enter the ranks of quasi-saints. However, Taisheng Laojun did not dare to enter the quasi-saint realm. If he did, the Saint Lao Tzu would definitely sense it and kill him mercilessly. Perhaps some people would ask why Yi Xian was so sure that Taisheng Laojun was Lao Tzu's good corpse. In fact, the reason was very simple. Yi Xian had the bronze Immortal Sutra in his hands. On the first page of the sutra, there was a record of famous people in the 3 realms. The 6 great saints, the demon ancestor Luo Ho, the Nether River Patriarch, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, the 12 ancient shamans, and many other mysterious and terrifying people. This page of the sutra recorded the life stories of these people. Whether it was a saint or a quasi-saint Daluo, as long as they had an extraordinary background, their life stories were all recorded. It just so happened that Taisheng Laojun was the good corpse of the Saint Lao Tzu and was also recorded on this page of the sutra. This page of the sutra was written by Yuan Ling. Yi Xian was also suspicious and wanted to test Taisheng Laojun. However, he did not expect that the sutra said that Taisheng Laojun had already developed self-awareness. This was actually true. One could see the whole picture from a single spot. Although Yi Xian had reached a deal with Taisheng Laojun, he gradually calmed down after his excitement and discovered something that made him extremely terrified. Chapter 487. This matter was Yuan Ling. Whether it was the saints or the mighty figures of the 3 realms, the primordial spirit actually knew their roots. Even the great secret of Taisheng Laojun's self-awareness did not escape the eyes of the primordial spirit. Yi Xian's meticulous thinking made him feel that Yuan Ling was even more mysterious. Yi Xian knew that Yuan Ling was definitely not a saint. This was because when he was pursuing Yuan Ling had said that he would have revealed his true form to kill Yi Xian if he was not afraid of the saints knowing his true form. From this, it could be seen that Yuan Ling was not one of the 6 saints of the world. There was no doubt that he was a quasi-saint. Although there were not many quasi-saints, there had been quite a few since the creation of the world. Every one of them was a world-shaking figure. Although Yi Xian did not know which of the quasi-saints Yuan Ling was definitely different from the other quasi-saints. He was an extremely mysterious and terrifying existence. It was simply unimaginable that a quasi-saint could know the secrets of the saints without being detected by the 6 great saints and had been planning a chessboard of heaven and earth for an eternity. Yi Xian was extremely certain that Yuan Ling had set up a huge chessboard that even included the saints. Yi Xian had no way of knowing who the primordial spirit was, but he had a premonition that perhaps it would not be long before he came into contact with the quasi-saint level and would be able to meet this mysterious teacher of his. His thoughts in chaos and his eyes drifting, Yi Xian slowly shook his head and dispelled his troubled thoughts. No matter what the road ahead was, he would eventually see through the chessboard of heaven and earth that Yuan Ling had set up and find out what Yuan Ling wanted to do. Perhaps that day would also be the day that the 2 of them would truly resolve their grudges. Yi Xian's thoughts returned to him. He looked around the Tushita Palace and a smile appeared on his lips. In fact, he had come to the Tushita Palace for 2 reasons. The first was to eliminate the hidden danger that was Taisheng Laojun. As for the second reason, it was actually very simple. Pills. That's right, it was a pill. The Tushita Palace was one of the forbidden grounds of the Celestial Court. Countless elixirs had been stored here since time immemorial. Even a mortal could ascend to immortality after consuming one. This was also Yi Xian's greatest trump card in building his foundation. With the immortal pills from the Tushita Palace, he would be able to increase the cultivation of his subordinates extremely quickly. He would truly be able to stand up to the various orthodoxies and become the true master of the three worlds. Wang. A purple gold gourd was sucked over by Yi Xian. Didn't the Jade Emperor step into the seventh heavenly layer of Grand Luo realm? Why couldn't Yi Xian kill other people who had reached the third heavenly layer of Grand Luo realm? In fact, the reason was very simple. The Jade Emperor had severed his own Great Tao foundation and forcibly reached the seventh heavenly layer of Grand Luo realm. Whether it was his cultivation or immortal techniques, he was far from the real third heavenly layer of Grand Luo realm. Yi Xian could naturally kill him by using the Tribulation Transcender transformation, but if it was someone like Mahamayuri or Duobao Rulai, Yi Xian was not confident that he could kill them. Therefore, although Yi Xian was currently at the third heavenly layer of Grand Luo realm, he did not dare to slack off in his cultivation because he knew that his path had just begun. 100 years passed in the blink of an eye. In 7 days, it would be the coronation ceremony, and Yi Xian would officially ascend to the position of Heavenly Emperor. In the bullfighting palace. The palace had no roof, and the golden sun shone down. The bright golden sun poured down on Yi Xian's body, illuminating him until he was spotless, as if he had turned into the only thing in the world. Whoosh! A stream of immortal light swallowed Yi Xian's mouth and nose, and the surrounding void rumbled. Heavenly Emperor, please bathe and change your clothes. 9 fairies, with white veils covering their bodies, walked toward Yi Xian with the items worn by the Heavenly Emperor in their hands. A black gold Heavenly Emperor battle robe, a Heavenly Emperor sword emitting immortal light, a pair of 9 dragon cloud boots, and a Heavenly Emperor crown, appeared in the hands of each fairy. A celestial pond appeared, and the clear spring water rippled slightly. Obviously, it was used to bathe and change Yi Xian's clothes. Obviously, today was the day that Yi Xian officially ascended to the position of Heavenly Emperor, and also the beginning of him becoming the Lord of the Three Realms. Yi Xian slowly opened his eyes, and the immortal light around him slowly retracted. The 9 fairies were slightly shy, and they began to undress Yi Xian until Yi Xian's glass-like body appeared. Under the shy faces of the 9 fairies, Yi Xian stepped into the celestial spring and let the 9 fairies wash his body. Mist rose from the celestial spring. The 9 fairies undressed and shyly served Yi Xian. Yi Xian leaned against the center of the celestial spring and closed his eyes slightly. There was no awkwardness on his face. Although the 9 fairies were rare in the 3 realms in terms of looks and figures, Yi Xian did not have any thoughts. Clearly, his heart was not here at all. Soon, Yi Xian finished washing and walked out of the celestial spring. With a flash of immortal light, a set of black clothes covered his body, and then he allowed the 9 fairies to comb his sparkling hair. Chapter 488. Time passed bit by bit. Soon, Yi Xian donned the Celestial Emperor battle robe under the service of the 9 fairies. A graceful and noble aura emanated from Yi Xian. The 9 fairies bowed to both sides, not daring to look directly at Yi Xian. A bronze mirror formed. Yi Xian looked at himself in the mirror. His eyes flickered for a moment before he smiled. There wasn't much fluctuation in his heart. Actually, whether it was the so-called Heavenly Emperor battle robe or the Heavenly Emperor sword, they were just external objects. They were just decorations, and Yi Xian had never placed them in his heart. When Yi Xian first entered the Earth Immortal realm, he had fantasized about becoming the Celestial Emperor and wearing the Celestial Emperor battle robe one day. However, when the day really came, Yi Xian didn't feel anything. He wasn't as ecstatic as he imagined. 6,000 years of time could change a lot of things. These 6,000 years of cultivation also allowed Yi Xian to understand a principle. Everything he possessed right now was related to his own cultivation. If it wasn't for his cultivation, even if he wore this heavenly emperor's outfit, no one would be convinced by him. Therefore, Yi Xian didn't care about the celestial emperor battle robe. Even if he wore black today, he was still the lord of the three realms. No one would dare to defy his will. Your Majesty, all the orthodoxies have arrived. Please head to the observatory to pay your respects to the heavens and officially ascend to the throne. Venus Taibai quickly walked over and bowed to Yi Xian. Rumble. The gates of the bullfighting palace opened. Yi Xian walked out in his celestial emperor battle robe. An unimaginable celestial emperor aura burst forth. Yi Xian seemed to have turned into a golden sun as he walked towards the observatory. There were no 9 dragons pulling the carriage, nor were there any fairies accompanying him. This was because Yi Xian didn't need these complicated formalities, nor would he put on an act like the Jade Emperor to demonstrate the might of the so-called Master of the Three Realms. One person, one path. As the Celestial Emperor, I can suppress all enemies in the world. This was Yi Xian's boldness and attitude. It was also Yi Xian's stance that told the orthodoxies that he had invincible power and didn't need these useless formations. On the observatory. The ground paved with white jade crystals stretched for 100,000 miles. Countless immortals sat cross-legged on all sides, with many ferocious demons occupying the area. The Celestial Emperor by heaven by the Celestial Emperor's throne by the Celestial Emperor by yi by yi by byes by. The 100,000-mile observatory was filled with endless chatter. These were the voices of various orthodoxies and factions. Although their voices were soft, they couldn't hold up against the sheer number of immortals present. It made the observatory a little noisy. Yi Tiandi is so bold. He hasn't officially ascended to the throne, but he's already expanding the celestial court's influence. What is he trying to do? The Blood King, the moon-devouring great crocodile, the evil immortal of unruffled emotions, the demoness of 9 desires, they're all powerful figures of both evil and demonic sections. If they join the celestial court, won't the celestial court become a gathering place for demons? Shh, quiet. Don't talk too much. A large number of immortals were discussing this in low voices. When they saw the large number of vicious demons gathered in the heavenly court, a hint of worry flashed through their eyes. However, they hurriedly shut their mouths at the urging of their companions, deeply afraid that they'd bring disaster upon themselves. It wasn't just the ordinary immortals. The immortals of the various orthodoxies had ugly expressions as well. That was because not only were demons gathering in the celestial court, the golden spirit saintess was also accompanied by several Daluo Jingxian. Judging from their auras, they couldn't be compared to ordinary grand heavenly immortals. They were clearly powerful figures of the Jie sect. The turtle spirit saintess. She's not dead. Tai Jinren of the Chan sect said darkly. Extreme wariness flashed through his eyes when he saw a female immortal of the Jie sect. The goddess of stone has come into being as well. Chijingzi, the golden immortal of the Chan sect, said solemnly. He had personally witnessed her prowess during the war of the investiture of the gods. The immortals of the Chan sect were silent with solemn expressions. Clearly, the appearance of these powerful figures of the Jia sect in the celestial court also proved that the Jia sect was about to officially rise. Amitabha. The Maitreya Buddha put his palms together and softly chanted a Buddhist name. When he saw the demons gathering in the celestial court and demons everywhere, there was not only helplessness in his eyes, but also an extremely heavy feeling. The celestial emperor has arrived. Clang! 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 Amidst the morning bell and the evening drum, thousands of auspicious vapors, fairies from the 9 heavens were singing, and the celestial court's golden bell was ringing. Amidst the rain of flowers, a beam of golden light walked out of the bullfighting palace and strolled through the skies towards the observatory. Thump! 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 The world was boundless and immeasurable. Yi Xian strode through the skies as a might that could suppress the celestial emperor slowly bloomed, causing those who looked at him to feel extremely inferior. Hum! Heaven and earth buzzed and the void rippled. When the golden light dissipated, Yi Xian's figure appeared. He stood on the observatory and was looking at the various orthodoxies. Yi Xian's eyes were calm and indifferent. However, when he looked at the various orthodoxies, no matter who met Yi Xian's gaze, they would quickly look away, not daring to look at Yi Xian at all. The might of the celestial emperor made the immortals bow their heads. This was the scene that appeared on the observatory. Greetings, Yi Tiandi. Under Shen Gongbao's lead, the immortals of the Jie school bowed to Yi Xian. There were even countless ferocious devils shouting the name of Heavenly Emperor Yi. This also caused the 100,000-kilometer observation platform to rumble, and the sound of mountains and tsunami-like waves rang out endlessly. The Chan sect, the spirited mountain of the west, the 10 kings of hell, and the 4 continents and 4 seas. When these big and small forces looked at each other, they saw the helpless and bitter smiles on each other's faces. Greetings, Yi Tiandi. All the orthodoxies bowed and paid their respects. Not a single immortal dared to show any dissatisfaction because Yi Xian's power was already established. Today was the day he ascended to the position of celestial emperor. No one dared to do anything that crossed the line. Everyone, please rise. Yi Xian spoke calmly. However, his voice reverberated throughout the 100,000 miles long observatory, directly suppressing the sound of the tsunami. It also caused the heaven and earth to suddenly fall silent. The grand heavenly worship ceremony begins. Venus Taibai held the golden paper in her hand and began to read the prayer to the heavens. The immortals listened in silence. Apart from Venus Taibai's impassioned reading of the document, not a single sound came from the 100,000 miles long observatory. The so-called prayer to the heavens was actually a pretense. It was also a pretentious process. It was nothing more than some useless nonsense, and in the end, Yi Xian would inherit the position of celestial emperor in accordance with the will of the heavenly Tao. Venus Taibai put away the document and bowed to Yi Xian. Celestial Emperor, please kowtow to the heavens and officially ascend to the position of celestial emperor. Yi Xian frowned when he heard Venus Taibai's words. He didn't know that to ascend to the position of celestial emperor, one had to kowtow to the heavens. Chapter 489. Perhaps sensing Yi Xian's dissatisfaction, Venus Taibai paled and hurriedly sent a telepathic message, Celestial Emperor, you may not know this, but to ascend to the throne, you must first kowtow to the heavens. This is also the meaning of assigning one's life to the heavens, an essential step. Unfortunately, Taibai Jingxing's words didn't move Yi Xian at all, and the various great orthodoxies watched in amazement. They didn't know why Yi Xian still hadn't kowtowed to the heavens and ascended to the position of heavenly emperor. I am the Lord of the 3 realms, and the celestial emperor. I am the heavens, and the heavens are me. Why should I kowtow to myself? Yi Xian spoke calmly, but when the immortals of the orthodoxies heard his words, their expressions changed slightly. They looked at Yi Xian with horror. How dare Yi Xian compare himself to the heavens? The same thought rose in everyone's mind. They did not expect Yi Tiandi to be so audacious. After all, only Tao ancestor Heng Jun could represent the will of the heavenly Tao in the 3 realms. Yi Xian comparing himself to the heavens was extremely arrogant. Unfortunately, even though the orthodoxies were dissatisfied, they did not dare to show it. After all, Yi Xian's power was already established. Anyone who dared to refute Yi Xian's words would be courting death. Rumble. The heavens trembled and ripples spread. Just as the immortals were feeling conflicted, Yi Xian stepped into the sky and walked slowly towards the celestial emperor's throne. All was silent, and the heavens and earth were silent. The immortals looked up, and the orthodoxies were deathly silent. Under everyone's gaze, Yi Xian finally sat on the celestial emperor's throne, looking down at the immortals from the boundless heavens. I am the celestial emperor, and the three realms bow to me. Yi Xian sat high on the celestial emperor's throne. His celestial immortal light rippled in all directions, and his celestial emperor's Tao voice reverberated in the sky observatory. What did Yi Tiandi say? Perfected Taiyi's face trembled. He could not believe his ears. He said that he wants us to bow our heads. Then doesn't that mean that he wants us to kneel down and kowtow to him? King Qingguang of the Yama underworld said gloomily. All the orthodoxies were in an uproar. The immortals were in a heated discussion. Clearly, they had already given Yi Xian enough respect by coming to the celestial court to observe the ascension of the celestial monarch. But now, Yi Xian actually asked them to kneel. This was too much. The orthodoxies could not be blamed for being angry. When the Jade Emperor ascended the throne, the orthodoxies only bowed symbolically as a form of respect for the Lord of the Three Realms. Today, Yi Xian wanted them to kneel before him. This was simply impossible. This was already a great humiliation to them. The ordinary immortals were still fine, but the Daluo Jingxian of the orthodoxies were all extraordinary people. If they really kneeled before Yi Xian today, wouldn't they lose all their face if word got out? Greetings, Celestial Emperor. Shen Gongbao's eyes turned. He was the first to kneel down and kowtow to Yi Xian. The Golden Spirit Saintess and the others looked at each other, then all knelt down and kowtowed to Yi Xian. The immortals of the Jia sect naturally followed closely behind. The Jia sect's kneeling and kowtowing clearly represented their submission to Yi Xian. As for the sky-devouring toad and the 10 great demon kings, needless to say, they had already knelt down long ago. This was because Yi Xian was their big brother. Back then, when Yi Xian transformed into Kongli, they had knelt down many times. The demon kings of the 72 grottos of Mount Huagua and the heavenly Pen King led the group of demons to kowtow. Although the demons who came to the celestial court to seek refuge with Yi Xian were slightly hesitant, their expressions changed when they saw Yi Xian's malicious eyes. They hurriedly knelt down and kowtowed to Yi Xian. As if there was a chain effect, a large number of demons and immortals knelt on the ground and shouted Yi Tiandi's name. Those who did not kneel on the ground were also very obvious, causing Yi Xian to look at them. The 10 kings of hell, the lineage of the Chan sect, the spirit mountain of the west. Only these 3 orthodoxies remained motionless on the heavenly observation platform. The 10 kings of hell were in charge of the Yama underworld. They were also the underworld forces of the 3 realms. Although they were nominally under the jurisdiction of the Celestial Emperor, the true rulers were the 5 Ghost Emperors. The 5 Ghost Emperors were also known as the 5 Emperors of the Underworld. There were a total of 5 of them, and they were in charge of the 5 cardinal directions of the Yama underworld. They were the true rulers of the Yama underworld. The Central Ghost Emperor was known as the Emperor of Fengdu. He was also the highest ruler of the Yama underworld. The only one who was on equal footing with the Emperor of Fengdu was Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva in the depths of the 18 layers of hell. Although the Yama underworld did not reveal its true strength, its strength was extraordinary. Just the 10 kings of hell were at the level of Daluo Jingxian, not to mention the 5 Ghost Emperors. Moreover, the strength of the Yama underworld was extremely mysterious. It was not as simple as the 5 Ghost Emperors and the 10 kings of hell. There was no need to describe them one by one here. The Yama kings of the 10 halls had ugly expressions on their faces. It was obvious that Yi Xian's request was too unreasonable and they couldn't accept it. However, as time passed, the expressions of the Yama kings of the 10 halls changed slightly, as if someone was sending them a sound transmission. This also caused the Yama kings of the 10 halls to look at each other, and then under the astonished gazes of the immortals, the Yama kings of the 10 halls knelt down just like that. It seems that the Chonism and Spirited Mountain are not convinced by me, the new celestial emperor. Rumble. The sky collapsed and golden light rumbled. Yi Xian's expression was gloomy. He pressed his fingers on the celestial emperor's throne. An earth-shattering murderous intent filled the air. He looked at the two orthodoxies with an extremely sinister look. Ha! Suddenly, a burst of laughter reverberated between heaven and earth. A spot of green light distorted space and quietly appeared in the void. As the light dissipated, an azure-robed Taoist appeared. This also made the Chan sect's lineage excited. Greetings, senior brother Yun Zhongzi. Taiyi Jinren bowed, followed by the other immortals of the Chanism. Their faces were brimming with excitement. Clearly, the newcomer was a powerhouse of the Chanism. Yun Zhongzi was a figure of the second watershed of Grand Luo. He was also Yuanshi Tianzuan's disciple. Apart from the immortal hermit of the South Pole, who was the third watershed, Yun Zhongzi was one of the strongest in the Chanism. Yi Tiandi, we of the Chanism are disciples of the saints. We only kneel to the saints and not the celestial emperors. Please understand, Yi Tiandi. Yun Zhongzi was neither servile nor overbearing. He cupped his hands and bowed to Yi Xian. This was also indirectly telling Yi Xian that they were all disciples of Yuanshi Tianzuan. If he forced them to kneel, it would be a slap to Yuanshi Tianzuan's face. Disciple of the saints? In the sky, on the heavenly emperor's throne, Yi Xian muttered to himself. He raised his head to look at Yun Zhongzi, and a cruel smile appeared on his face. All the lands in the world belong to the king, and all the lands are the king's subjects. I am the common lord of the three realms, and all living beings submit to my will. Even if the people of Chan school are disciples of the saints, it is a great crime to be disrespectful to me. A great crime. You should be punished. Rumble. The firmament shook and the void exploded. Yi Xian spoke in a sinister voice. When he struck out with his palm, the winds and clouds in the area were rolling. The exploding spacetime crack was terrifying and frightening. Now that his primordial spirit had fallen into her hands, how could the goddess of golden spirit let him go? Ba. Suddenly, before the goddess of golden spirit could make a move, the sound of Buddha came from the sky. The merciful sound of Buddha shook the world, and a 9th-grade golden lotus crossed the sky. Junior sister, where it's possible to let people off, one should spare them. Why don't you give senior brother face and let him off? The Buddha's light filled the sky, the golden lotus filled the sky, and the sound of Buddha's chanting filled the sky. Duobao Rulai sat cross-legged on the 9th-grade golden lotus and was persuading the goddess of golden spirit in the sky. Old thief Duobao. Looking at Duobao Rulai in the sky, the goddess of golden spirit's eyes were bloodshot, and her silver teeth were about to shatter. Obviously, her anger and resentment toward Duobao Rulai had been accumulating for endless time. Junior sister, although I have joined the Buddhist sect, I have never forgotten Master's kindness. Today, I will give Yun Zhongzi face and let him go. When Duobao Rulai stretched out his palm, the space and time in this area were distorted. The terrifying cultivation of the third watershed of the Daluo realm was extremely shocking, and he directly rescued Yun Zhongzi's primordial spirit from the goddess of golden spirit. You evil demons, why aren't you retreating? Suddenly, Duobao Rulai showed his Vajra Dharma form with glaring eyes. The demon rinsing Buddha's voice was spewing out, and it also made the faces of the evil demons turn pale, and their bodies trembled unconsciously. The Lord of Spirited Mountain, Gautama Buddha, a terrifying figure of the third watershed of the Daluo realm. Before the sage-to-be appeared, Duobao Rulai could be said to be one of the strongest people in the world. How could the demons not be afraid of him? Duobao Rulai, I'll kill you. The goddess of golden spirit roared, and an immortal sword pierced through the sky. However, with the sound of metal clashing, the spiritual sword that cut through the void quietly fell, and it did not cause any harm to Duobao Rulai at all. Junior sister, so many years have passed, but your evil aura is still increasing. Duobao Rulai did not attack the goddess of golden spirit, but he gently advised her. Thank you for saving me, Buddha. Yun Zhongzi's primordial spirit bowed, glad that the Buddha had come to save his life. This also made him heave a sigh of relief and secretly rejoice. Ah! Suddenly, Yun Zhongzi's primordial spirit cried out in alarm. His primordial spirit instantly disappeared in the Buddha's palm, and when it reappeared, it was already detained by Yi Xian. Such a scene horrified the immortals, and it made the world fall silent. It also made Duobao Rulai's benevolent smile disappear, and he finally turned to look at Yi Xian. Ba. Duobao Rulai chanted the Buddha's name loudly, and the rumbling Buddha's voice reverberated in all directions. When the Buddha's Dharma eyes opened and closed, a vast power spread out, and it even caused the space and time of this world to slightly distort. Its terrifying power was simply indescribable. Yi Tiandi, today you ascended to the position of Celestial Emperor. It's a joyous occasion for the three realms. Why do you have to increase the killing and make things difficult for the immortals of Chan sect? Duobao Rulai chanted sutras and calmly looked at Yi Xian. At this moment, Yi Xian sat high on the throne of the Celestial Emperor. He calmly looked at Duobao Rulai, and he could completely feel the terrifying aura around Duobao Rulai. Duobao, if I were you, I wouldn't get involved in this mess, Yi Xian said calmly. How dare you call the Buddha by his name? An arhat of Mount Numinous jumped out and directly reprimanded Yi Xian angrily. Obviously, the arrival of the Buddha had made Mount Numinous unable to endure, and this arhat was even more fearless as he reprimanded Yi Xian. Roar! Suddenly, a thunderous roar was heard, and an extremely terrifying scene suddenly appeared. It was unknown when the sky-devouring toad appeared behind the arhat. Its terrifying mouth opened and swallowed the arhat in one gulp. Crunch! Crunch! Blood foam spilled out as the arhat's bones and flesh were crushed. The sky-devouring toad's ferocious aura surged. As its throat swelled, it directly swallowed the arhat into its stomach. Only then did it open its mouth and laugh cruelly. How dare you disrespect the Celestial Emperor? You deserve to die. How dare you, evil creature! Such a scene completely aroused the monstrous anger of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of Mount Numinous. The sky-devouring light of Buddha soared into the sky, and the awe-inspiring Buddhist power bloomed as if it would kill the sky-devouring toad in the next moment. Rumble! Groups of demons danced wildly and ferocious demons roared. Countless Tongtian demons appeared behind the sky-devouring toad. They were all great masters of the evil and demonic paths who had defected to Yi Xian. The Blood King, the moon-devouring giant crocodile, the unruffled immortal, the demoness of 9 desires. All of them were in the realm of Daoyuo Jingxian. There were also many all-heaven demon kings roaring ferociously as they surrounded Mount Numinous of the west. If Duobao Rulai was here in the past, these great demons would have already fled. They wouldn't dare to do such a crazy thing. But now, Yi Xian was the master of the 3 realms, and they were all Yi Xian's subjects. They also had a towering tree to rely on. If they still cowered in the face of Duobao Rulai, wouldn't Yi Xian look down on them? Retreat! Suddenly, before the battle began, Duobao Rulai's face turned gloomy, but he still ordered the Mount Numinous lineage to retreat. Yi Xian smiled and waved at the great demons and immortals of the Jie sect, indicating that they didn't need to do so. Yi Tiandi, Mount Numinous of the West has no intention of becoming enemies with the Celestial Court, but your demons have killed my people. Shouldn't you give me an explanation? Duobao Rulai said calmly. A mere arhat dared to be disrespectful to me. So what if I killed him? What explanation do you want me to give you? Yi Xian said indifferently. One was the Buddha of Mount Numinous of the West, and the other was the master of the celestial court, who was in charge of the three realms. When the two supreme figures spoke, the rest of the people were silent, watching the development of the situation. Chapter 491. The two supreme experts faced each other in the sky. Duo Bao Rulai sat cross-legged on the 9th grade golden lotus, chanting Buddhist scriptures in a low voice. A round of Buddhist light rose behind him, making him look sacred and solemn. Yi Xian sat on the heavenly emperor's throne with a slightly lazy expression on his face. However, strands of the heavenly emperor's might were spreading out in all directions, causing people to feel a great sense of reverence when they looked at him. The master of the Western Spiritual Mountain and the master of the 33rd Celestial Court could be said to be a respected figure in the three realms. His every move could be said to be related to the safety of the three realms. If the two of them fought, there would definitely be a shocking change in the three realms. It would also symbolize that the relationship between the Spiritual Mountain and the Celestial Court would be completely broken. Amitabha. Suddenly, when the atmosphere between heaven and earth was extremely oppressive, Duo Bao Rulai finally dispersed the Buddhist light around him. Obviously, he did not want to fight with Yi Xian here. It was not that Duo Bao Rulai was afraid of Yi Xian. As a peak zenith heaven and the master of the spiritual mountain, how could he be afraid of Yi Xian, the new celestial emperor? However, if he really attacked Yi Xian, it would definitely cause a great disaster. This was not the result he wanted to see. Today, there is an Arhat in the spiritual mountain who disrespected the celestial emperor and deserves to be killed. I have nothing to say. However, Yun Zhongzi did not do anything wrong. He is a disciple of a saint. Yi Tiandi, please release his primordial spirit, said Duo Bao Rulai. Yun Zhongzi was an extremely important figure among the disciples of the Chan sect. Duo Bao Rulai came here today to see Yi Tiandi and was afraid that Yi Xian would attack the Chan sect. I am a disciple of a saint. Even the celestial emperor can't kneel. I hope the celestial emperor can understand. Although Yun Zhongzi's body had collapsed without a trace and only his primordial spirit was left, he still spoke to Yi Xian in a neither arrogant nor humble manner. It was obvious that as a disciple of a saint, he had his own pride. If he really admitted defeat to Yi Xian, it would be a loss of face for the Chan school. Yi Tiandi, please release Yun Zhongzi's primordial spirit. Duo Bao Rulai said solemnly. When he opened and closed his eyes, there was a faint threat. It was as if he was telling Yi Xian that he was only an elementary heavenly emperor. If he did not give the spiritual mountain and Chan school face, his position as the heavenly emperor would not be stable. At this moment, all the orthodoxies remained silent, while the immortals and demons were waiting to see what would happen. However, the immortals and demons of the Jia sect had their eyes fixed on Yi Xian. They had no idea if Yi Xian would compromise and release Yun Zhongzi's nascent divinity. In fact, even though Yi Xian had released Yun Zhongzi's primordial spirit, the immortals of the Jia sect and the ferocious devils could understand. After all, Duo Bao Rulai and the immortals of the Chan sect were here. These two orthodoxies were created by the sages. Yi Xian had just ascended to the position of celestial emperor, so it was better not to offend these two orthodoxies. Duo Bao, you're just the lord of spiritual mountain. How dare you order me around? Do you think this is the spiritual mountain of the West? All of a sudden, Yi Xian spoke sinisterly. He did not give Duo Bao Rulai any face at all. What happened next happened so quickly that the orthodoxies could not react in time. It also caused the immortals to gasp. I'm the supreme ruler of the three realms, the lord of all spirits. Yun Zhongzi has committed the crime of defying the heavens by being disrespectful to me. His only fate is death. Bang! No! Yi Xian was calm and indifferent, but his palm was glowing. An extremely terrifying force attacked Yun Zhongzi's primordial spirit. In an instant, Yun Zhongzi's primordial spirit was crushed in his hand, and a shrill scream was heard from Yun Zhongzi's primordial spirit. Silence, silence, dead silence. When Yi Xian released the golden light of the primordial spirit in his hand, an extremely violent atmosphere rose between heaven and earth. Duo Bao Rulai's benevolent face was no longer there. His face was slightly distorted, and he looked at Yi Xian with an uncontrollable killing intent. How dare you? Yi Xian dared to kill someone right in front of Duo Bao Rulai. This was simply not taking him, the master of the Western Holy Mountain, seriously. This was also a great humiliation to him. When the Buddha was angry, the world would be overturned. This was definitely not just a saying. It was an extremely terrifying thing. Boundless Buddha's light shrouded the sky and covered the earth. Surging immortal light swept through the mountains and rivers. Duo Bao Rulai's Vajra Dharma form appeared with glaring eyes. The Buddha's golden alms bowl condensed, and the Buddha's light that filled the sky howled endlessly like a heavenly river. Bang! 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 The firmament collapsed and recovered, and the void was annihilated. The 9th grade golden lotus bloomed with boundless Buddha's light. Duo Bao Rulai suddenly stretched out his Buddha's palm, and the wind and clouds changed. A sky-covering Buddha's palm appeared and slammed toward Yi Xian with a mighty force that could suppress all things. Duo Bao Rulai was a terrifying figure in the 3rd watershed of Daluo realm. In the 3 realms where Sage to be did not appear, he could be said to be one of the strongest people. When he attacked Yi Xian, the terrifying scene created was simply unimaginable. Duo Bao Rulai, let me have a taste of your techniques. Yi Xian sat high on the throne of the Celestial Emperor. His body did not move, but he also slapped out with his palm. The space-time suddenly became chaotic, and the myriad heavenly music exploded in all directions. Wisps of mysterious fog reverberated in all directions, and turned into a giant palm that violently met Duo Bao Rulai. Rumble. The 2 supreme forces collided, and the terrifying and blazing light drowned Duo Bao Rulai and Yi Xian. Just the terrifying shockwaves that shot out were enough to make immortals and demons retreat. They were deeply afraid that their souls would be destroyed if they came into contact with even the slightest bit of it. The world collapsed, and the spiritual energy went berserk. Even the space-time of this world was in chaos. The Buddha's light was too blazing, and the celestial observation platform within 100,000 miles was instantly reduced to ashes, violent winds blew, and the chaotic energy of this world gradually stabilized. The turbulent laws of the world returned to normal, and the orthodoxies could once again see the scene in the firmament clearly. Above the firmament, in the void, Duo Bao Rulai sat cross-legged on the 9th grade golden lotus with a golden alms bowl in his hand. The Buddha's light around him was dazzling, but it also carried a demon-subduing aura that had never been seen before. He was staring solemnly at Yi Xian. Yi Xian sat high on the Celestial Emperor's throne. He supported his chin with one arm and squinted his eyes slightly. He was also staring at Duo Bao Rulai, and a strange and sinister expression quietly curled up at the corner of his mouth. No one knew what had happened in that strike just now, nor did they know who had won or lost. Only Duo Bao Rulai and Yi Xian knew what had happened. Yi Xian, since you've ascended to the Celestial Emperor's throne, you should work for the well-being of all living beings in the 3 realms. However, not only did you kill Yun Zhongzi, but you also targeted my spirited mountain and the Chanism. Today, this humble monk will have to see just how capable you are. Duo Bao Rulai said angrily. Since he had already made a move against Yi Xian, he should directly suppress him. This way, Yi Xian would know that there was always someone better out there. When the 2 of them exchanged blows, Duo Bao Rulai could sense that Yi Xian was only at the 3rd firmament of Grand Heavenly Realm. However, his immortal energy was extremely domineering and filled with an indescribable destructive force. That was why he could resist his attack. However, to Duo Bao Rulai, even if Yi Xian's combat strength was heaven-defying and he had many secret techniques, his cultivation realm was still there. He was no match for Duobao Rulai. Chapter 492. Duobao Rulai was also very confident that he could suppress Yi Xian. At this time, Yi Xian didn't show any fear, and a hint of ridicule flashed in his eyes. He was just testing Duobao Rulai with that blow just now. He just wanted to see how big the gap was between him and Duobao Rulai. What made Yi Xian very relieved was that Duobao Rulai was indeed very terrifying, but not to the point where he could kill him. Yi Xian calculated his own combat strength. Although his cultivation wasn't as high as Duobao Rulai's, it was only 2 levels lower. He should be in an invincible position. Moreover, Yi Xian still had a great killing weapon in his hand, the heaven-punishing halberd in his sea of consciousness. With his terrifying physical body and the terrifying power of the heaven-punishing halberd, he should be able to seriously injure Duobao Rulai. As for whether he could kill him, Yi Xian wasn't sure. Rumble. Yi Xian's lazy expression disappeared. He got up from the Heavenly Emperor's throne, and his body bloomed with great firmament immortal light. An extremely terrifying power spread out in all directions. Tribulation Transcender Transformation. Rumble. The darkness was boundless, and the blood moon appeared. A wisp of fog fell from the sky, covering Yi Xian's figure. A blood-red crescent moon was engraved on Yi Xian's forehead, turning his 3,000 black strands blood-red. Buzz. When Yi Xian used the Tribulation Transcender transformation, his aura suddenly changed. The might that could shatter all things in the world bloomed in a terrifying manner. His eyes turned gray and deathly still, giving off a feeling of his soul being extinguished. Such a scene directly changed Duobao Rulai's expression, and even his body trembled slightly. He didn't expect that Yi Xian, who was just at the 3rd heavenly layer, would become so unpredictable in the blink of an eye. Even he couldn't see through Yi Xian's depth. The Tribulation Transcender transformation was a heaven-defying technique. As Yi Xian's cultivation became higher and higher, the power of the Tribulation Transcender transformation also became more and more terrifying. When Yi Xian stepped into the 3rd heavenly layer and displayed the Tribulation Transcender transformation, he had already crossed the 3rd watershed of the Great Firmament. Whether it was cultivation or combat strength, it was extremely heaven-defying. Duobao Rulai was no longer confident because Yi Xian in front of him gave him an extremely heavy feeling. His Buddha's heart that had never moved since ancient times was slightly trembling at this moment. What kind of technique is this? Duobao Rulai asked solemnly, and his eyes flashed with surprise and doubt. One had to know that Duobao Rulai was the eldest disciple of the Tongtian. He originally had great Taoist techniques, and after the Great Divine Investiture Tribulation, he switched to Western Buddhism. It could be said that he had great Taoist techniques, and his knowledge could be said to be at the top of the 3 realms. He was not inferior to a sage to be. But now, Duobao Rulai was bewildered because he couldn't see what technique Yi Xian was using. The aura released by Yi Xian didn't belong to the 3 realms at all. It was simply unimaginable. Duobao Rulai's expression changed, and he asked Yi Xian in horror, could it be, this is the legendary Chaos Divine technique? Unfortunately, Yi Xian didn't answer his question. His blood-red hair danced in the sky, and the blood-red crystal hair was as terrifying as the long river of chaos. Even the surrounding space was collapsing inch by inch. Duobao, take this. Yi Xian muttered in a low voice. However, when he swung his fists, it was as if he was swinging the universe. That strand of fist light that could shatter the heavens and split the earth shattered the past and present, and even broke through the barrier of time and space as it smashed towards Duobao Rulai. The fist radiance illuminated the sky and shook the earth. This fist was too powerful and too dazzling. It was filled with Yi Xian's technique and Tao. The power contained in it terrified even Duobao Rulai. Ba. Duobao Rulai didn't dare to be careless. He put his palms together and chanted Buddha's name. 9 rays of Buddha's light rose and protected his body in the center. The golden alms bowl in his hands suddenly expanded and released a Buddha's light, ready to block Yi Xian's punch. Clang! There was a loud explosion as the golden light exploded. Under the dumbfounded gazes of the various orthodoxies, the Buddha's golden alms bowl cracked like a spider web. The alms bowl crumbled inch by inch and shattered into pieces amidst a deafening explosion. Bang! The 9th-grade golden lotus under Duobao Rulai trembled. Yi Xian's punch was too terrifying. Not only was it mixed with the power of the tribulation transcender transformation, but it was also supported by the indestructible primordial spirit and the zenith immortal body. Even though Duobao Rulai was a terrifying figure of the third water dividing sandfly, he absolutely didn't dare to take Yi Xian's punch head-on. Buzz! Duobao Rulai retreated until he was 100,000 miles away from Yi Xian. Only then did his golden lotus stop in the void. However, he looked at Yi Xian with an extremely heavy expression. Strong, very strong, so strong that even he felt scared. This was Duobao Rulai's mood at this moment. At this moment. Above the sky, in the void. Yi Xian was dressed in a celestial emperor battle robe, and his blood-red hair hung behind his head. As the astral winds howled, his hair fluttered in the wind, and the domineering aura of a celestial emperor bloomed. Such a scene made the immortals of the Jia sect excited. Many of the great divine abilities of the 2 evil sects who had joined Yi Xian blushed. No one knew who shouted Yi Xian's name, but it immediately caused a tsunami of cheers. The celestial emperor is supreme. Hundreds responded with a single call, and hundreds responded with 1,000 chants. 1,000 chants produced 10,000 echoes. The earth-shattering sound reverberated in all directions, filled with madness and excitement. They couldn't be blamed for being so excited. The immortals of the Jia sect had been suppressed by the spirit mountain of the Chan sect ever since the Battle of the Gods. Today, Yi Xian had used the might of a celestial emperor to defeat the master of the spirit mountain, Duobao Rulai. This had established Yi Xian's reputation as the celestial emperor, and he would lead the immortals of the Jia sect to rise again in the 3 realms. The 10 great demon kings of the North Continent, the demon kings of the 72 caves of the Flower Fruit Mountain, the great divine abilities of the 2 evil sects, and countless great demon kings were roaring in excitement. They were demons, and even Zenith Heaven demons didn't dare to casually appear in the world. They were afraid that the Chan sect and the Spirit Mountain would kill them. Endless time had passed, and they could be said to have endured it to the extreme. When Yi Xian ascended to the position of Celestial Emperor, they rushed over from all directions in order to join Yi Xian's sect. From then on, they could truly walk the 3 realms without being hunted down by the various great orthodoxies. Now, even Duobao Rulai of the Spirit Mountain had been defeated by Yi Xian. This scene made the great divine abilities of the 2 evil sects extremely excited, because they knew that they had made the right choice by joining Yi Tiandi. Duobao, let me see how capable you are. Yi Xian stood in the sky with his hands behind his back. His entire body emitted a tyrannical might. When he stepped into the golden immortal realm, unless a quasi-sage personally came, Yi Xian wouldn't be afraid of anyone. Even if he, Duobao Rulai, was the master of Spirit Mountain, he wouldn't be an exception. Using strength to prove one's Tao meant that one was invincible in the same realm. Although Yi Xian had just stepped into the palace of using strength to prove one's Tao and his cultivation was only at the 3rd heavenly layer of Zenith Heaven, he was confident that he was invincible. If Duobao Rulai dared to fight him to the death, he wouldn't be afraid. Even if it meant exchanging injuries for injuries, he would use Heavenfall to kill Duobao. Chapter 493. Yi Xian, you've gone too far. Duobao Rulai sat cross-legged on the golden lotus. His benevolent voice was no longer there, and his benevolent face was a little distorted. His hands were forming a Buddhist mantra as if he was performing some kind of Buddhist technique. The chanting of thousands of Buddhas came from the void as if he was going to attack Yi Xian in the next moment. Ha! Suddenly, before the two of them could attack again, an earth-shattering laughter was heard. It made Duo Bao Rulai's breath stop. He frowned and looked at the source of the laughter. Rumble. Time and space collapsed, and the void was annihilated. A golden light shadow came from the sky. The indestructible five-colored divine light swept across the heaven and earth, and a monstrous and ferocious aura slowly bloomed. Mahamayuri. The first peacock since the creation of the world. His five-colored divine light could destroy all kinds of spiritual treasures. He was an extremely terrifying existence below the sage to be. Even Duo Bao Rulai had to be wary of him. Old man Duo Bao, my brother Yi has ascended to the position of Heavenly Emperor today, but you're pestering him endlessly. Do you have no respect for me, Kong Xian? Kong Xian said domineeringly. The five-colored divine light exploded in the sky as he stared at Duo Bao Rulai fiercely. Duo Bao Rulai's expression changed drastically, and there was a hint of retreat in his eyes. It wasn't that Duo Bao Rulai was afraid of Kong Xian, but that Yi Xian had already made him feel an enormous amount of pressure. At this moment, Kong Xian was actually on Yi Xian's side. If the two of them joined forces to attack him, even if he wasn't in danger of dying, he would still have to flee. That would be a complete loss of face for the Western Buddha. Taoist Kong, I didn't keep my promise to you back then. Please don't blame me. Yi Xian cupped his hands as a greeting to Kong Xian. Ha! Kong Xian laughed out loud and said, Yi Dao Yu, there's no need to say more. You were just an all-heaven golden immortal back then, but I never thought that you would step into the zenith heaven 3,000 years later. Moreover, your cultivation has increased to such a terrifying level. I suppose you broke your promise because you were at the critical moment of your breakthrough. After Kong Xian finished speaking, he suddenly turned around and looked at Duo Bao Rulai. A cruel and fierce expression appeared on his face. Old man Duo Bao, will Yi Tiandi and I kill you here, or will you scram back to the Western Spirit Mountain yourself? Domineering and lawless, Kong Xian berated Duo Bao, not giving him any face at all. This also made Duo Bao Rulai's expression extremely gloomy. Extremely cold killing intent flashed through his eyes. Kong Xian, you are the Mahamayuri of the spiritual mountain. How dare you collude with the celestial court? Aren't you afraid of being punished by the two sages of the West? Duo Bao Rulai tried to put on a strong front. What a joke. Hearing Duo Bao Rulai's words, Kong Xian smiled contemptuously and said, Yi Tiandi is the master of the three realms, and all living things in the three realms have to obey his orders. Although I, Kong Xian, am the Mahamayuri of Buddhism, I still have to obey Yi Tiandi's orders. Is there a problem with that? Hiss. As soon as Kong Xian finished speaking, the sound of cold air being sucked in could be heard from all the orthodoxies. The 10 kings of hell looked at each other with a heavy expression. One should know that the two great mediums of the evil path who defected to Yi Xian were only at the level of Daoyuo Jingxian. The highest cultivation base among them was only at the second watershed of Daoyuo realm. However, Kong Xian was different. He was a terrifying figure who was revered as an ancestor. Now that even he was on Yi Xian's side, even Duo Bao Rulai would have to retreat if the two of them joined forces. The two of them were at the third watershed, and it was not as simple as 1 + 1. The power they possessed was unimaginable, and it would even make some true great mediums defect to Yi Xian. Could it be that Yi Tiandi really wanted to rule the three realms? The orthodoxies shuddered and had the same thought, especially the 10 kings of hell. They were in charge of the underworld, and they knew how terrifying the underworld's power was. If Yi Xian really wanted to rule the three realms, the underworld would definitely have to clash with Yi Xian. This was not an outcome that the 10 kings of hell wanted to see. However, they could see that Yi Xian was simply establishing his power. He was also telling them that since he, Yi Xian, had become the celestial emperor, he would not be as easy to bully as the Jade Emperor. Instead, he wanted to be the true ruler of the three realms. The 10 kings of hell turned pale and their minds were in turmoil. They could only return to the underworld and report today's matter to the ghost emperors of 5 directions. As for how the underworld would deal with the celestial court, it was not up to the 10 kings of hell to worry about. At this moment, the orthodoxies were in a heavy mood. In the sky, Kang Xian and Yi Xian stood side by side. Duo Bao Rulai's face was gloomy. He was in a dilemma and did not know what to do. Duo Bao Rulai was very depressed at this moment. He was really depressed. If he were to attack the two of them, he would definitely not be a match for them. In the end, he could only flee in defeat. However, if he were to turn around and leave, he would definitely be ridiculed by the three realms. Duo Bao Rulai did not know what to do. He was in a dilemma. Under the orders of the Nether River Patriarch, I present 3 blood god fruits to Yi Tiandi to rule the 3 realms. Rumble. Suddenly, the world was filled with blood light and blood chi. A blood river that spanned 10,000 miles rolled over.
The blood light that covered the sky was extremely terrifying, and the cries of ghosts and gods could be heard from the blood river. Such a scene made the orthodoxies feel suffocated. An extreme sense of panic spread through everyone. This is the unholy blood sea. Tai Zhenren stuttered. His entire body was trembling. As long as the blood sea does not dry up, the Nether River will not die. To think that even a quasi-saint like the Nether River Patriarch would come to congratulate Yi Xian on his ascension to the Heavenly Emperor's throne. Seems like Yi Xian's power is already set. Someone sighed. There was an indescribable sense of panic and helplessness in his voice. Rumble. The blood sea that spanned 10,000 miles dissipated. A Taoist in blood robes appeared and smiled at Yi Xian. In his hands were 3 blood-colored spirit fruits. Shiva. Kang Xian was stunned. He had not expected the Nether River Patriarch to send his personal disciple. One must know that this Shiva was extremely powerful. Even though he was only a figure in the second watershed of the Grand Heavenly Tao, his methods were extremely strange. Even Kang Xian was not willing to offend someone as troublesome as the Nether River Patriarch. Greetings, Wisdom King. Greetings, Heavenly Emperor. Shiva smiled warmly. He first bowed to Kang Xian. Then, he slowly walked toward Yi Xian. After bowing to Yi Xian, he presented the 3 blood god fruits. The Patriarch knows that you have ascended to the Heavenly Emperor's throne. He specially asked me to present 3 blood god fruits as a congratulatory gift. I hope that Yi Tiandi will accept it. He also asked me to pass a message to you. If the Heavenly Emperor has the time, you can come to the unholy blood sea as a guest. The Patriarch is willing to sit down and discuss the Tao with the Heavenly Emperor and comprehend the Tao of heaven together, Shiva said warmly. After receiving the 3 blood god fruits and hearing Shiva's words, Yi Xian's eyes froze. Then, he smiled and said, "Thank the Nether River Patriarch on my behalf. I will definitely visit the unholy blood sea in the future and personally express my gratitude to the Patriarch." You are too humble, Heavenly Emperor. Shiva smiled and stood to the side. Then, he glanced at Duo Bao Rulai in the distance. The corner of his mouth curled into a strange smile, which made Duo Bao Rulai's expression change slightly. His heart grew heavier.
Chapter 494. If Mahamayuri's arrival made Duobao's heart heavy, then Shiva's arrival made Duobao's heart tremble. He even had the thought of retreating. Shiva was just a character from the second watershed of Daluo Dao. Duo Bao Rulai was not afraid of him. To put it bluntly, he could kill him in an instant. However, Shiva was from the Azura clan and the disciple of the Nether River Patriarch. Who was the Nether River Patriarch? The Nether River Patriarch was a quasi-saint between heaven and earth. There was even a saying about him in the three realms. As long as the blood sea does not dry up, the Nether River will not die. It was a simple phrase, but it was not just a saying. Even a saint would have a hard time killing the Nether River Patriarch. The Nether River Patriarch was also known as one of the most difficult characters to deal with among the quasi-saints. This fully explained how terrifying the Nether River Patriarch was. Today, Shiva came to congratulate Yi Xian and even gave Yi Xian 3 blood god fruits under the Nether River Patriarch's decree. This was a show of goodwill to Yi Xian. Obviously, the Nether River Patriarch valued Yi Xian very much. Duo Bao Rulai was terrified. He did not know why a supreme character like the Nether River Patriarch would want to befriend Yi Xian. However, he did not think about it because he did not dare to attack Yi Xian now. Which one of you is Yi Tiandi? Suddenly, a gust of wind blew across the sky. 2 Taoist children in green robes arrived on a cloud. Although they were merely overarching Heaven Xian immortals, the various orthodoxies gasped when they saw the Taoist robes they were wearing. 5 Manor Temple. Duo Bao Rulai growled in shock. He tried his best to suppress his fear, but the shock in his eyes had already jumped out. As everyone knew, the grand deity Zhen Yuan was the ancestor of earthly immortals. He was famous all over the world and was revered by all living beings in the 3 realms. Those who had received his favor were as numerous as carps crossing the river. His hidden power was unimaginable. Let's put it this way, as long as the grand deity Zhen Yuan raised his arm, the heaven, earth, and mortal realms would be in complete chaos. Immortals, demons, and demons would all listen to the grand deity Zhen Yuan's orders. And this was only the grand deity Zhen Yuan's connections, it did not represent his own terrifying cultivation. The 2 Taoist children were wearing the Taoist robes of the 5th Manor Temple. They were the children of the grand deity Zhen Yuan. How could the orthodoxies not recognize them? This made them speechless, and they looked at Yi Xian with even more fear in their eyes. At this moment, Duo Bao Rulai unconsciously retreated. His originally rosy complexion turned ashen. His mind was in turmoil because he thought of an extremely terrifying consequence. The Nether River Patriarch and Grand Immortal Zhen Yuan were the 2 demi-saints of the world. But now, they had both sent people to attend Yi Xian's coronation. They clearly wanted to befriend Yi Xian. If these 2 demi-saints really supported Yi Xian, wouldn't his western spirit mountain be trampled under Yi Xian's feet? In the 3 realms where saints did not appear, demi-saints were the most powerful beings in the world. No one dared to go against the will of a demi-saint, not even Duo Bao Rulai, the lord of Western Spirit Mountain. Duo Bao Rulai's face turned gloomier when he thought of that terrifying consequence. The monstrous fury in his heart had long since dissipated, let alone wanting to suppress Yi Xian. He did not even know if he could leave this place safely. Duo Bao Rulai could feel Kong Xian staring at him maliciously, while Yi Xian was sneering again and again. Killing intent was faintly blooming around him. Kong Xian was the 3rd Grand Heavenly Dao Demi-Saint. Although he was a notch above Duo Bao Rulai, Yi Xian's combat strength was not inferior to Kong Xian's. If the 2 joined forces to attack him, he could only flee. You must be Yi Tiandi, right? The 2 Taoist children smiled and slowly walked toward Yi Xian with a tray in their hands. They bowed and handed it to Yi Xian, saying, Ancestral Master Zhen Yuan asked us to send a ginseng fruit to congratulate Yi Tiandi on taking charge of the 3 realms. Thank you for your hard work, my 2 little friends. Let me send my greetings to Great Immortal Zhen Yuan. When I have time, I will definitely personally visit and thank Senior Zhen Yuan. Yi Xian smiled warmly. Venus Taibai hurriedly took the ginseng fruit and stood behind Yi Xian with an extremely loyal look. The celestial emperors might shake the 3 realms. If anyone dares to cause trouble in the celestial court, we will definitely report it to Ancestral Master Zhen Yuan. We will definitely not forgive such evil people. Qing Feng and Ming Yu smiled and nodded slightly at Duobao Rulai. This also made Duobao Rulai's face as gloomy as water, and his unmoving Buddha body trembled slightly. Duobao Rulai wasn't afraid of the two Daoist children, but he was so angry at Yi Xian that he was about to explode. Shiva had pressured him just now, and now the two little Daoist children were doing the same. Kang Xian and Yi Xian were also eyeing him covetously. When had he, the Buddha, become so easy to bully? Duobao Rulai had never experienced such a thing before. This made him wish that he could directly slaughter Yi Xian. Only then would he be able to quell his heaven-burning anger. But Duobao Rulai was also a very shrewd person. Even though he was extremely angry, he still forced a smile on his face. It was just that his smile was uglier than crying. Duobao Rulai knew that he had to endure because if he rashly attacked Yi Xian at this moment, he would be asking for humiliation. First of all, Yi Xian's combat power was too terrifying. He was a frightening figure at the third watershed of Grand Heavenly Realm. However, when they saw Yi Xian's domineering and fierce style, they really missed the Jade Emperor. They secretly regretted not killing Yi Xian when he was still weak. That way, the Jade Emperor wouldn't have to die in Yi Xian's hands and put them in such a predicament. Of course, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Even though the orthodoxies were very regretful, they knew that Yi Xian's power had already been established. They could only wait and see. Yi Xian, you've gone too far. Duobao Rulai roared furiously. As the Lord of Mystical Mountain and a terrifying figure of the third boundary of Grand Heavenly Realm, when had he ever been bullied like this? This was simply a great humiliation to him, Duobao Rulai. How could he not be angry and hateful? Old man Duobao, I'll give you Mystical Mountain 3 breaths. If you don't kneel and submit to me after 3 breaths, you'll be the scourge of the 3 realms and stay in the celestial court forever. Yi Xian said coldly. With a wave of his hand, countless demons quietly surrounded the people of Mystical Mountain. The immortals of the Jia sect and several Daoyuo Jingxian stepped out from the crowd, looking at Duobao Rulai and the others with a ferocious and cruel look. Obviously, as long as Yi Xian gave the order, they would attack the Spirit Mountain without the slightest bit of mercy or fear. 3, 2, Yi Xian sneered viciously. His murderous aura bloomed. Clearly, he wasn't just joking. If Mystical Mountain didn't submit to him, he would definitely make Duobao Rulai and the others stay in the celestial court. Yi Tiandi, aren't you afraid that Mystical Mountain will take revenge in the future for humiliating us like this today? Duobao Rulai didn't put on an act since they had already shed all pretense. He roared at Yi Xian, hoping that Yi Xian would have some misgivings and let the people of Mystical Mountain leave. Ha! Yi Xian sneered and said with an extremely domineering voice, you're right. So what if I'm humiliating Mystical Mountain? So what if I'm bullying you, old man Duobao? Suddenly, Yi Xian's tone changed and an extremely sinister voice slowly rang out. I'm the Lord of the 3 realms. All orthodoxies must submit to me. Under my will, all of you must kneel and kowtow. Because I'm the Lord of the 3 realms, I rule over all living beings in the 3 realms. Do you understand? Yi Xian wasn't just talking to Duobao Rulai. He was also warning the orthodoxies. His sinister and merciless gaze swept across the immortals of each orthodoxy, causing them to quickly avert their eyes. Great fear flashed in their eyes. Damn it, damn it! Duobao Rulai roared. Duobao Rulai let out a low roar as the surrounding space and time collapsed and recovered. He continuously raised his Buddha's palm, but slowly lowered it. It was obvious that he wanted nothing more than to kill Yi Xian, but he knew that he couldn't kill him at all. Good, good, good. Duobao Rulai said 3 times in a row, then turned to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of Mystical Mountain and growled, "Why aren't you kowtowing to Yi Tiandi, the Lord of the Three Realms?" As soon as Duobao Rulai finished speaking, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of Western Mystical Mountain turned pale. Everyone had a bitter look on their faces, but now that even Duobao Rulai had given in, they couldn't do anything even if they were unwilling. "Greetings, Yi Tiandi." The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas all knelt and kowtowed to Yi Xian. Although they sounded unwilling, on the surface, they were subservient to Yi Xian. "What about you, old man Duobao?" Unfortunately, Yi Xian only nodded slightly in response to these Buddhas and Bodhisattvas kowtowing, then looked at Duobao calmly. This caused Duobao Rulai's aura to explode and his eyes to turn red. "Greetings, Emperor Yi Tian." Duobao Rulai didn't kneel. Instead, he put his palms together and bowed to Yi Xian. This was also the greatest etiquette in Western Buddhism apart from kneeling. As the saying went, "Leave a way out for yourself in the future." Although Yi Xian saw this as a joke, he believed that one had to be ruthless and eliminate the roots. However, Yi Xian also knew that he had already pushed Duobao to the limit. If he forced Duobao to kneel to him, Duobao Rulai would definitely fight him to the death. Yi Xian wasn't afraid of Duobao Rulai fighting him to the death. He even wanted to kill Duobao Rulai in one fell swoop. This would also save him a lot of trouble on his path to becoming the Celestial Emperor in the future. However, Yi Xian knew that even if he and Kong Xian joined forces, they wouldn't be able to kill Duobao Rulai. After all, Duobao Rulai was the Lord of Mystical Mountain and a peak Grand Luo existence. The two of them wouldn't be able to kill Duobao Rulai. They could only let him flee. Therefore, Yi Xian had been forcing Duobao Rulai from the beginning to the end. This was also his show of strength. Not only was he showing off to the various orthodoxies, but he was also establishing his prestige as the Celestial Emperor. Chapter 496. No one would have thought that Duobao Rulai would lower his head to Yi Xian, and even make the Buddha and Bodhisattva of Spirit Mountain kneel and kowtow to him. This caused the various orthodoxies to be even more terrified of Yi Xian. The world had changed, the world had really changed. When Yi Xian ascended to the position of Celestial Emperor, his aura was even stronger. It was as if everyone could see the changes in the three realms in the future. Yi Tiandi was definitely going to stir up chaos and bring about unimaginable changes to the three realms. The Western sect's numinous mountain seemed to have submitted on the surface, but the Chan sect was in a state of panic. When Yi Xian looked coldly at the Chan sect immortals, they were shocked. They gritted their teeth and finally knelt and kowtowed to Yi Xian. At this moment, all the orthodoxies had submitted to Yi Xian. Regardless of whether they were convinced or not, they had already submitted on the surface. This was the attitude that the orthodoxies were showing. "Everyone, please rise." Yi Xian radiated the aura of a celestial emperor, his voice rumbling in the clouds. "Yi Tiandi, farewell." Duobao Rulai took a deep look at Yi Xian. The ninth-grade golden lotus beneath him shone brightly and directly tore through space and time, disappearing. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the West also left on clouds. "Yi Tiandi, the underworld is busy. We will take our leave first." The 10 Yama kings bowed and left the celestial court on their dark clouds. From beginning to end, the 10 Yama kings did not show any dissatisfaction. They even kowtowed to Yi Xian. Even when they left, they did not express any dissatisfaction. However, Yi Xian knew that if he were to compare Numinous Mountain to the underworld, the latter would be the most terrifying. Since the creation of the world, the 6 paths of reincarnation had existed in the underworld. It was in charge of the reincarnation of all living beings and created the 18 layers of hell. Who knew how many terrifying beings there were? However, the underworld rarely revealed itself and had always kept a low profile. The 3 realms of heaven, earth, and man. The celestial court, the earth immortals, and the underworld. The underworld was a realm of its own. The ghost emperors of the 5 directions ruled over the underworld, and Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva presided over the 18 layers of hell. There was also an unknown Mengpa on the Yellow Springs path, and the Nether Blood Sea where the Nether River Patriarch resided was located in the underworld. From this, it could be seen that the underworld was not as simple as one would imagine. Instead, it was extremely terrifying. If one were to treat it as a weak existence, that would be the biggest joke in the world. After the underworld of Mount Numinous left, the immortals of Yi Xian left one after another. The so-called heavenly Tao draconic qi also dissipated in the void. Celestial Emperor, you. Venus Tai Bai exclaimed in shock. He could not believe what he had just seen. He could not understand why Yi Xian would crush the quadrangular dragon seal. Did he not know that the quadrangular dragon seal was the symbol of the Celestial Emperor? Everyone knew that the Jade Emperor was almost immortal because he had the quadrangular dragon seal. The heavenly Tao draconic qi was connected to the fate of the celestial court. If Yi Xian had integrated the heavenly Tao draconic qi and was supported by the will of the heavenly Tao, wouldn't he be even more powerful? So why did he destroy the quadrangular dragon seal? Celestial Emperor, what are you? Shen Gongbao asked tentatively. Clearly, he was not the only one who had such doubts. The rest of the people also had the same doubts. Do you think that if I integrated the quadrangular dragon seal, I would be able to achieve immortality like the Jade Emperor? Yi Xian smiled as he looked at the confused expressions on everyone's faces. He continued, the so-called quadrangular dragon seal seems to be the symbol of the Celestial Emperor, but it is also a great shackle. Over the endless years, the Jade Emperor had always thought that he was immortal because he had the quadrangular dragon seal in his hand. He also thought that no one could kill him. His Tao heart had long been worn away, and he did not feel any sense of danger. This is also why he has always been at the second watershed of Daluo and has not made any progress. Yi Xian spoke frankly. He directly pointed out the Jade Emperor's biggest flaw, and it made everyone suddenly realize. Therefore, the quadrangular dragon seal is useless to me. The so-called immortality is just a joke. If that's the case, then there's no need to keep the quadrangular dragon seal. Yi Xian casually waved the heavenly Tao draconic qi away. He had never thought of absorbing this so-called heavenly Tao draconic qi. This was because Yi Xian had always believed that the strong would always be strong. This so-called immortality was just a joke. If the Jade Emperor was really immortal, how could he have died under his heaven-destroying halberd? You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.